Thank you very much for coming tonight to the pre-submission community meeting for Bethany Glen. You'll notice the property has been posted with 2 signs for this meeting. This is the official community input meeting for the conditional use plan as well as the subdivision plan. My name is Jason Van Kirk. I'm with Elm Street Development, located here in Ellicott City, and I am the petitioner for this project. I have a short presentation to go through, then we will have a Q&A session at the conclusion of the presentation. Please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. On the way in, there are index cards and handouts. The handouts detail the conditional use process and the subdivision process. The index cards are for leaving your contact information if you wish to receive a copy of the minutes and notifications of our initial submission. I guess I correct that. The handouts are over here, and as you're leaving, please come over and pick up handouts if you choose to. We will also be posting these handouts on our website BethanyGlen.com. The estate was established in order to dictate the sale of the property for the benefit of charities. The money was directed to have an impact on the local area. 100% of the net seller's proceeds will go to the charities. Major health organizations, including American Cancer, Heart, Lung, and Arthritis Foundations, comprise the bulk of the donations. These organizations are interested in getting the funds as quickly as possible. Howard County developed zoning categories in 1948, and this area was designated as residential at that time. In 1961, Howard County created subcategories for the zoning codes. R20 was established at that time. Conditional use options have been part of the zoning code since the creation of the zoning code. Howard County created conditional use options for all of the zoning categories in order to encourage particular uses that are generally appropriate and compatible in specific districts. In the case of age-restricted adult housing, there is no underlying zoning category that specifically allows age-restricted adult housing. The county is only able to get age-restricted adult housing through the conditional use process or through an overlay zone called Planned Senior District, sometimes referred to as PSC. The residential zoning codes of Howard County are listed on this number line. We've included density neighborhood transfer options when available in those zones. On the bottom of the line are the options available for Bethany Glen that we have been evaluating. Everything to the left side is lower density, and everything to the right is higher density. Howard County defines age-restricted by having one person in the household that is over 55 years of age, and children less than 18 years of age cannot reside in the household for more than 90 calendar days in any year. A common problem occurs when the over 55 homeowner dies or departs for medical or health reasons. In this case, Howard County allows the remaining resident a period of 5 years to resolve the age requirement of the community and the county. Age-restricted adult housing, we sometimes abbreviate as ARAH, is a conditional use within the R20 district. Age-restricted housing produces less traffic than single-family, non-age-restricted housing. Age-restricted housing produces no school children. Age-restricted housing respects the same environmental features as non-restricted single-family development and would have a similar road network and overall impact. We are planning a combination of landscaping, fencing, and berms that will minimize the view shed onto the property. Howard County's Department of Citizen Services conducted a study in 2015 focused on the future growth of the older adult population in Howard County. Between 2010 and 2035, the county's population is projected to grow 26%. During the same time period, the population aged 50 and older is projected to increase 60%. Later in that report, they introduced this chart looking at the population growth across different age groups from 2010 to 2040. You'll notice that the ages 45 to 64 is only growing 7%, while the 65-plus citizen population is growing 183%. That means, on average, each year, Howard County's population growth will grow. Well, 2/3 of that growth will be accounted for by the 65 and older residents. On April 5th, we had a meeting where we presented a plan showing 330 homes, including condo buildings. One of the reasons we have these meetings is to hear feedback from the community in order to make revisions to our plan. On May 17th, we held another meeting and presented a 241 home plan comprised of only single-family attached and detached homes with no condo buildings. Again, at that meeting, we heard good feedback on the plan and are here tonight to present a 238 home plan with a mix of units on the north side and more open space on the north side. Our plan consists of 238 units, 31 detached singles, 177 villas, and 30 elevator towns. I want to talk a little bit about how our design works to protect the environment and incorporate certain site features. First, we're providing 50% open space, both on the north side and the south side, independently of each other. We are retaining 18 of 21 specimen trees. We are respecting the 100-foot stream setbacks that cross across the property. The Harbin home in the upper left corner is to remain by the request of the will, and it is excluded from the conditional use. We are also planning a trail system through the protected open space. We heard in the last meeting that our improvements do not always benefit the community. The pathway system is one example of an improvement that will be available for public use. Talking about some of the design features that help to minimize the impacts, we will be performing sound attenuation along I-70. This improvement will also provide additional benefit to the existing neighbors. That berm and wall will be in place to attenuate the sound of I-70 required for plan approval. We will provide screening and landscaping along Route 99. We will provide buffers and landscaping along the perimeter of the job where we relate with the existing community. Single-family detached homes are opposite existing single-family detached homes. And lastly, the villas that we will build will have many side views, as you see both on the north and the south, that limit and do not restrict the view shed as if they were oriented 90 degrees from that. Our stormwater design will be comprised of two categories of facilities. From Howard County's Design Manual, Chapter 3, stormwater management structures are shown in blue on the plan. These facilities are used to treat water coming off of the roads and sidewalks. These structures are typically designed as shallow earthen indentions with high-grade soil and mulch, layered to promote retention and infiltration of stormwater. Plants and trees will be planted inside these facilities and make them very green instead of blue once they are constructed. Chapter 5 of the design manual addresses the microbial-retentions. These facilities are not shown on this plan because they are micro in size. These facilities are on-lot stormwater management controls such as dry wells and small bioretentions, often referred to as rain gardens, that treat water created by impervious surfaces on the lot. They are either hidden under the ground, in the case of dry wells, or they're extremely small on the surface. This is the full stormwater management plan with all the notes. Our development complies with the state and county regulations. However, we expect to apply for alternative compliance for removal of 3 specimen trees, for the intersection separation for our proposed entrance onto Bethany Lane, and for 2 stream crossings. The Institute of Traffic Engineers Trip Generation Manual, Volume 9, is the state of Maryland's required manual for evaluating traffic. The manual defines the number of trips generated per day for every type of housing unit. The state of Maryland and Howard County rules require us to recognize that on average, 238 age-restricted homes creates 826 trips per day, while non-age-restricted single-family homes, counting 145, generates 1,380 trips per day. Age-restricted homes, therefore, creates 554 fewer trips per day. In addition, age-restricted homes produce no school children, as it might be obvious. On this plan, I'd like to identify a few features. Our roadway network is comprised of mostly public 50-foot right-of-ways through the job. Private roads and use in common driveways will be used to access units through alleyways and use in common driveways. Around the community amenity, we will have a parking lot. The 100-year floodplain is contained within the banks of the stream channel and is therefore also protected by the 100-foot stream setback requirement. And there is a small steep slope area right in where I'm pointing to that is also within the 100-foot stream setback area and will be preserved. At this time, I'm going to turn on the main part of the lights and allow the question and answers to start. I appreciate you letting me come through the presentation. And again, thank you for coming tonight. And before you leave, please don't forget to pick up the handouts at the front of the room. Sorry, how we'll do the question and answer so that everybody can hear in the room is we have a mic stand set up here to the right so that your question can be well heard. I would love for you to state name and address. It helps us to know what types of comments are coming from different communities surrounding us. We have a lot of residents on all sides, and I like to be able to help designate those into what areas and their concerns. Please go ahead. Proceed.
Good evening. My name is Roger Knight. I'm from the Mount Hebron neighborhood. I'd like to know, it seems like we're going to have one development or the other, and it's going to have an impact on the traffic on Route 99.
Is it on?
Hello?
Yeah, it's on.
You can take it off.
Sorry, my name is Roger Knight. I'm from the Mount Hebron neighborhood. And it looks like we're going to have a development of one sort either way. And it's going to have an impact on Route 99 traffic, which is already very congested at rush hour. So I would like to know what you might be planning to help relieve that traffic situation on Route 99. Thanks.
The first answer I would say there is that our proposal of age-restricted adult housing is for the purpose of having non-peak hour trip generation rather than unrestricted, which would be much more peak traffic trip generation. In addition, we will be performing or producing our full traffic study that is required by Howard County to pass the adequate public facilities ordinance, and any improvements that are required by us in order to pass the adequate public facilities ordinance will be required for us to get our plan approved.
My name is Scott Miller. I live in the Mount Hebron community as well, and I think you sort of addressed that just a little bit there a moment ago, but my question is exactly what road improvements are you anticipating having to do to absorb the traffic flow that is going to increase, obviously, and I see your numbers there and I understand the numbers, and actually looking at the traffic numbers, it's not going to be quite as bad as I thought it would be. But what are you going to be doing as it relates to improving Bethany Lane, improving Route 99? What do you anticipate doing? Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, as I said, our traffic study is not complete and finalized. That's because we don't finalize it until we know our mix of units, where those units are located on the property, and what that does to the traffic generation of the project. I can say very much in generic terms that we are expecting to have decel lanes and left turn pockets coming into our entrances, but that's still yet to be finalized.
Paul Verchinsky with the Howard County Citizens Association. I'm a board member. First, I'd like to make a statement about this project and then go into a series of questions. First of all, in taking a look at this particular project, it's fairly isolated. For folks that are older adults, there's no walkability here basically to just about anything. So that's one of the major issues. And I'd like to find out whether there is a transit route nearby, because actually I had a personal problem with my wife where she broke her ankle like 10 years ago, and I had to use hats. In order to use transit for folks that are wheelchair bound, which she was for a month, you have to be near a scheduled transit route. So my question to you is, first, is there scheduled transit nearby? And if there is not, what, if anything, are you proposing to do about that?
First, there is not a transit location nearby. The closest transit stop is by the New Giant and the Home Depot on North Chatham. We are interested in working with the county to see if that can be extended. There are several active adult communities along 99 that I think would benefit greatly from having a circular route that runs through the senior center on Frederick Road. But at this time, there's not a bus stop.
Okay. Second, you referenced the Howard County 20-year aging plan, and we were on that advisory group, and there is a need for senior housing in Howard County. There's no doubt about that. The question is, are there going to be any units that are below market rate for low and moderate income seniors?
We are required to do 10% moderate income housing, and you can achieve that by either building your 10% of moderate income housing, or the county does offer a fee in lieu option for which then the Housing Commission works to provide that housing in possibly better locations like you're referring to, or that would be better for low-income buyers. Our decision as to whether we build or pay the fee in lieu at this point in time has not been decided, and will depend a lot on the builder that we end up having, builders that we end up having in the community.
Okay, I understand that you're the developer and not the builder of the units, but 55 plus units, it's all about what's inside, to a certain extent also what's outside. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions on items that would be inside or outside the units, and I'd like to get a yes or a no, or I don't know and I'll find out, so it's in the record. So if you all can just bear with me, this is going to take a bit. So,
I have offered
in
him
any event, okay, you're required to do an accessible path between parking, dwelling units, and common areas to meet ADA standards. Will that be done in this particular development?
I believe that requirement is for multi-family apartment or condo developments.
Okay. For
But
single-family,
however, we will, our sidewalks in the public right-of-way will be ADA compliant
okay.
as a county requirement, as they are all developments now.
Okay. For single-family detached and attached, which you do have in this development, no step access to the front entrance in all dwellings. Will you be doing that?
It is part of the requirement at this time, so yes.
Okay. 36-inch wide front doors with exterior lighting at the entrances.
That is also part of the requirements at this time, so yes.
Okay. All interior doorways at least 32 inches wide. We'd like to see 36 inches.
It is a requirement, and so we will be providing it as long as the requirement list remains as it is today, which is likely or not likely to occur.
Okay. Hallways that are 36 inches wide.
Same answer, Paul.
Okay. Lever handles on all interior and exterior doors.
Ground mold, they've got lawyers.
It is a requirement.
You're not gonna loophole them. It's unlikely.
I'll keep going. Blocking for grab bars.
It is a requirement, yes.
Okay, what about low maintenance exterior materials?
Lawn maintenance?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Covered main entries.
Don't know about this at this point.
Okay. Entry door approaches with 18 to 24 inches of clearance at side adjacent to the handle.
That'll be builder dependent.
Okay. Transitions between rooms should be smooth. Will that be done in terms of the interior building?
I mean, I don't know at this time.
Okay. Slip-resistant flooring.
I don't know at this time.
Okay. Maximizing the accessible path between main living rooms, preferably 38 to 42 inches.
I don't know at this time.
Okay. Lever handles on kitchen and bathroom sinks plus shower.
It's the same. I don't know at this time.
Okay. Anti-squall devices on all plumbing fixtures.
I don't know at this time.
Okay. 5-foot turning radius or T-turn in kitchen and first floor bathroom.
I don't know at this time.
Okay. Parallel and forward approach maneuvering space in front of appliances and plumbing fixtures.
I don't know at this time.
Okay.
Here, I'd just like to say there's a 3-page.
If you are interested in a 55-plus community, this is basically the items that people should be looking at. These are not required by the county, and that's why I'm asking the question.
So, do you want to finish, Paul, or can I say something about?
Yes. Apparently, people don't want to know. Thank you.
Okay, real quick. Paul's reading from the universal design requirements that are right now in effect for Howard County. You can find them on their website. They have a list of required, and then they have a list of desirable improvements, as well as custom options. Paul's interested in getting this plan updated, and I told him I'd be more than happy to meet with him and any county members as we work to try to upgrade the requirements for universal design.
I live on Bethany Lane. My name is Bill Up the Hill. I have a couple of relevant questions, and I'm going to be really brief. Where are the townhomes? Show me on the map.
The townhomes are 30 townhomes, or 27 townhomes located right here by the green dot, and 3 townhomes located here.
Thank you.
There are no townhomes on the north side. Those are villas and single family.
The traffic study. Follow-up question.
All right. I'd like to keep questions to here, but I will talk a little more about the villa, townhouse, elevator town, and single family. So the villa product is a 2-story with a basement product that's 28 feet by 72 feet deep. It is designed to have a first floor master and a 2-car garage attached as integral to the unit. The elevator town is different. It is 24 feet wide and 50 feet deep, and it has an elevator inside the unit because the master bedroom is not on the same floor as the kitchen. And so you end up having a unit that looks more like the standard townhouse in that it is 3 stories tall on a slab, and the elevator provides the universal design access required by the universal design guidelines. And then we have 31 single-family homes on lots that are averaging 60 feet wide and 110 feet deep, which will generally allow a home footprint of 40 feet by 50 feet.
Okay, the traffic study, I'm curious as to who performs that. I understand you have a responsibility to do that, but you get to select the professional?
We hire the professional to do the traffic study,
I think we would all like to know who that is.
the traffic group.
Okay, we'll all look that up on the
I
net.
mean,
And-
they're probably do more traffic studies in this area than almost anyone else.
Cool. My major concern with the traffic, aside from the volume, which we'll find out from your traffic group, is the entrance on Bethany. Is it going to be a right and left turn in, or is it going to be restricted to a right turn in coming north to south? It's going to be a problem.
I mean, at this point, what our requirement is to show an entrance that the county will deem as safe. And we have to show through the traffic study and through the movement analysis of all the possible turns that the intersection is safe. That is not complete at this time, but I guarantee that the county will only approve our plan if they deem our traffic movements in and out of our entrance as safe.
Right. I live right there, and I've already lost a couple of pets there, and it is a whole-shot racetrack down off of the bridge there. It's a hill, and actually, we had a casualty today. We lost a little groundhog there. I saw him on the way here.
I saw the groundhog.
Yeah, so I'm really concerned about that entrance. So traffic study, we want it done by legit professionals, obviously. And
Of course.
I'm really concerned about that entrance on Bethany. I'm encouraged by the fact that we're getting closer to a single-family home villas type of design. I don't want to say too many things positive because there's a really angry group here. And I'll pass the mic on.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tess. I'm going to be a rising senior at Mount Hebron. And one of my big things is that your entire building process is going to be interfering with day-to-day life at Mount Hebron. And what exactly are you going to do to protect the students and keep traffic from being overwhelming?
Our construction plans are reviewed multiple times by the county, Department of Planning and Zoning. And part of that plan review has a very detailed maintenance of traffic plan for all of our frontage improvements. And that is also will be reviewed by State Highway in regard to the 99 entrances as well. And our plan will not be approved until Howard County deems our construction sequence, maintenance of traffic techniques, and as safe for the community and for the students at Mount Hebron.
Also, many of the students run through the neighborhood, so what are you going to do to protect their safety as you're constructing? A lot of the sports teams will go running down that way.
Well, as a construction site, our idea would be to keep anybody off of the construction site, and we post no trespassing signs for that reason. For everyone, for the public's safety, with heavy machinery and dirt moving operations going on. So from that standpoint, we want to secure our site as best as possible. And then again, from the construction traffic standpoint, it's going to come down to the maintenance of traffic and the construction entrances that are established for the truck traffic that is going to come in and out of the property. And again, that's thoroughly reviewed by Department of Planning and Zoning.
Hello.
Hi.
I live on Michael's Way, and me and my friends bike ride a lot. And at the end of the street, we have no bike lane or sidewalks. So, are you gonna make bike lanes or sidewalks?
Within our development, we will be providing sidewalks. and trying to promote as much of that connectivity through bike or foot traffic as possible, that then also links in with our trail network on our property. That's where we have control. We don't control the right-of-way, the county right-of-way, or the areas in front of your houses to be able to do anything additional at this time.
Hi, so I have a short question. I already see a sign for Norwich Street. I drive on Michael's Way, and then you're going to make another exit on Longview. Is it going to be a right side turn only, or both? Can you show on the map for everyone who I'm talking about? You're going to do 2 exits out of the property.
Yeah,
one on Norwich and
Yep.
one on Longview.
Correct.
Are they going to be right side turn only, or right and left?
These are continuations of the temporary T.
No, hold on one second. We're talking about a neighborhood with no sidewalks, biking, elementary school kids, walking moms with the strollers to Cypress Smith Park right there. And so if you make a left turn, and you will have another 826 trips per day. As far as mother, it's 826 times my kid can be run over. That's one side. So back to the stuff, you're going to do construction, you're going to put signs. I have a question. When did you conduct your traffic study? What was the time frame of the period? Spring, summer, autumn, winter? When have that happened?
The traffic counts have been done during the springtime while school was still in session.
When?
I mean, I don't have the exact days here with me.
There is senior drivers who graduate in May, and then the rest of us who still send our walkers to school. In Mount Hebron, we are all walkers in this neighborhood. Do you know when the school starts?
Which school? The elementary?
High school. Let's start with all the schools. We have all 3 of them in the neighborhood. Do you know when the high school starts?
I could guess, but I do not know exactly when.
Yes.
High school, 7:25.
Correct. It takes 20 minutes to walk there with the backpack. So 7 to 7:25, I have a high schooler. 7:50, there is a bus for middle schooler. 8:45, elementary school, which we have walked to with no sidewalks because our neighborhood is like that. So are all these people who are 55 and up are not going to be driving or giving up driver's licenses? I'm just asking.
I believe these residents will still have their driver's licenses.
Okay, so 55 and up, I see myself still driving to work because I still have college tuition to pay by that time. And work for many of us starts early in the morning or at night. So 826 divided by 2 is 413 trips in the morning and 413 back.
That's that number is across the entire day.
Okay, it's another 200 in the morning and 200 at night, and we'll leave 400 for Run to Giant in the library. My question is, how we all going to fit in with the buses, cars parked on the sidewalks? So when you come up with these studies, I really want to know the details, because it's safety. And if you put left turns on Michael's Way, how are we all going to have just dead groundhogs and whoever versus children? That's all I'm asking.
And I understand your concern about safety, and I absolutely guarantee that the Howard County Department of Planning and Zoning feels the same way about safety. And as they review our plans, they are going to absolutely require our turning movements, our entrances, and everything related to our traffic to be deemed safe by the regulations, or else our plan will not be approved.
Yes, because the high school gets dismissed at 2. Middle school gets dismissed at 2:50, and then everybody, and elementary school gets dismissed at 3:30. And then we have another traffic coming back home. But high schoolers stay till 6 doing sports, and then we all run to various concerts. How we can accommodate another 1,000 trips? So why can't you ditch your elevator homes? I know you're going to build something. Why it cannot be 145 senior citizen units versus 238?
I'm not even going to try to take it out. My name is Greta Bach. I live in the Valley Mead neighborhood, and I'm also the St. John's Lane Elementary PTA president, and I am actually representing them. We voted formally regarding this development. So I have a question. I'd like some clarification, I guess. Repeatedly, we hear that these age-restricted units have no impact on the schools, but according to the HUD guidelines, up to 20% of these units can be advertised to anyone. So while you're saying that the county says you can't do that, if there's a federal thing saying that you can, I'd like to know how is that going to be addressed? I mean, over time, I would much prefer, like many people, to see the 100 or so regular single-family homes where the school can account for that. And over time, there's no change. It's not like all of a sudden it loses its 55 and over status, and now we have kids living in 241 homes. Because I will say that St. John's Lane right now is closed for development. We just poured for our 6th portable classroom. There is no room for, for anyone, but like I said, over time, this just looks a little scary, so.
Sure. Specifically, Howard County takes a more restrictive approach than the federal guidelines regarding the school children and what you're referring to as the 80-20 rule. That 80-20 rule is in effect for the purposes of the death or departure of that 55-year-old resident, so that then the resident that is remaining, if they're not 55, doesn't immediately get kicked out of their home. Howard County takes that a step further and gives that a 5-year window to be resolved, where the federal housing guideline just puts the 80-20 possibility for a community to be have those occurrences occur. My understanding, though, of the Fair Housing Act, that is the 80-20 rule, is that the community does have to be marketed as age-restricted. They cannot market 20% as unrestricted.
Can you legally prevent someone from wanting to purchase in a 55 and over? I understand that you have to market it, but if I'm a family and I want to come in and buy one of those houses, can you legally prevent me from doing so?
Yes.
Okay. And that stays in effect?
It would be a zoning, it would be a zoning violation. There's really 2 layers of restrictions that will come into effect if somebody's in violation. First is the homeowner declaration of covenants and restrictions, which is governed by the board of the HOA. And that board is, in my experience, very good at policing itself within its community for different violations of those declaration of covenants. In addition to that, it would be a zoning violation that DPZ would be required to get involved with, absent the 5-year rule that they have to help deal with death or departure.
So they don't, do they have the right to literally evict those people? I'm not saying I would want that. I'm just saying, though, how tight is that?
Age-restricted housing in Howard County is not, it's been around for quite a while, but I have not seen it come to that point where DPZ has stepped in to have to resolve an issue with the age requirement or with kids living in the units. The HOAs have so far been very good at policing themselves.
And one last sort of follow-on point to this. We've had a different development that initially applied for age restricted, was approved. Now this was a zoning change, I should say, not a conditional use. They were approved for the zoning change for age restricted, and now they've gone back and they are applying for non-age restricted. Can you comment on any plans from Elm Street in terms of that?
We have no plans to do a different development than age restricted. That is our desire. That's why we've brought this plan forward.
Thank you. I just wanted to hear that. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Dylan Klein. I live in Allenford. 70 and 99 both currently receive failing levels of service from the State Highway Administration during peak hours. What I'd like to understand is how any development can be approved, whether it be a high-density or medium-density senior development or 140 single-family homes. How can either of those developments get approved when they would both fail the adequate facilities test and overburden an already inadequate infrastructure?
Up here with me is David Wessner. He's the engineer with Bowler Engineering, and he's the engineer on this project along with his team. I'm going to help him to answer some of these questions on the engineering side as well. So please, Dave.
Good evening. Your question's a good one. If we fail the AFO test, our plans will not be approved. We could not go forward.
Is that the case also with the 140 single-family homes as well, that should they fail the adequate facilities test, that they would not be approved?
The case is with either alternative, with every plan, with every project taking place in Howard County, the first thing you have to do is take the AFO test. If you don't pass the AFO test, you don't get to go the next step in the planning process.
Okay.
So when you encounter an intersection that's failing, you have the option of of completing improvements that would make it not fail. An example would be the States of Patapsco Park project on 99 and the improvements they were required to do to 29 and 99. So to answer your question, you don't have to worry about failing intersections because we have to evaluate them. The county has to approve it, the state has to approve it, and if they don't, we are given the option of making it right. And if we don't, then that's the end of the process.
So I just want to make sure that it's not being stated in a misleading way that 140 units can go in by right when in fact the public facilities are inadequate at this time for that development as well as the high density development.
I want to state it as clear as I can. Every project in Howard County is required to take the test. Every project in Howard County will be stopped if it doesn't pass the test. It wouldn't matter how many units, if it could be a 4-lot minor subdivision, it would be tested the same and be held to the same standard.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Kay Schultz, and I too live in Allenford, and I'm concerned about the traffic. It is horrendous. Guess I'm told, there we go. My name is Kay Schultz, and I live in Allenford, and I'm concerned about the traffic. It's horrendous. Your assumption that people 55 and older will not be utilizing the roads because they're not going to work. I am 72 years old. I'm still working. I know some friends in their 80s that are still working. And I try to get out on 99 in the morning at Green Clover, and it is awful. I got to wait there and wait there and wait there. Tonight, coming home from work, 70 bottles up at 29, and as soon as you cross that bridge, it bottles up, and people get off there to go 99 to avoid all the backup on 70. So that adds more traffic. Tonight, I didn't think I'd ever get back on 99 to get out to this meeting. So it's awful. It really is.
Well, again, these aren't our assumptions. There are requirements that the state of Maryland and Howard County require us to use in evaluating our traffic plan. And again, going back to the adequate public facilities ordinance, we will be required to make the appropriate improvements to make our traffic safe and to not create any failing situations in the surrounding community.
Yeah, but you just can't assume that because you're 55 and older, you're not going to be out on the road 8 o'clock in the morning.
Ma'am, you're right, and you're right. And that's why we're required, I'm not the traffic engineer, but that's why we're required to assume, that's why we're required to assume about 3.5 to 4 trips a day for folks like yourself who are going to work back and forth. It's not 0. It's just not as much as people who have kids shuttling around to practice and stuff like that. And just for what it's worth, I lived on Mount Heron Drive for 28 years, and I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, 70 and 29 is horrible.
And we have to make it right, and the county is going to make sure we do.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pete Kuhn, and I live at 2983 Bethany Lane. I've got 2 questions for you gentlemen. Well, one comment. I have a tremendous problem getting out of my driveway, myself and my family, because of the traffic that's driving on Bethany Lane. It's been quite a concern for us ever since we've lived here. We've lived here for roughly about 16 years. Since we've lived here, there has been, in front of our house, 3 accidents where, not minor accidents, where I'm talking about major accidents where the cars actually flipped upside down. I have pictures of them, but I couldn't find them. I was going to bring them tonight to show you, but I couldn't locate them. However, I did find some information about the traffic, which I believe you gentlemen are waiting for, and I want to address those numbers. By the way, these aren't my glasses, these are my wife's, so. Okay, they look good. Okay, this is from the Howard County Traffic Enforcement Section. These are traffic records from May 2nd of this year to May 18th of this year, which is 16 days. Combined, the total number of cars that passed down Bethany Lane was 128,674. Going north, there were 64,808. Going south, 63,886. So it's about even. The mean speed, 42.7. Now, Bethany Lane is 30 miles an hour. The median speed is 41.4. The 85% speed total has been 52.3 miles an hour. Here's a shocker. 96.5% of all those cars exceeded the speed limit. So my question is, this is over 16 days, and you gentlemen haven't even looked at this report yet, and you're probably waiting for the end of the year, which is going to be much greater. What numbers does the Howard County come back with saying that Bethany Lane cannot sustain the additional traffic by the additional cars that are coming in?
I apologize. I didn't hear the last part of your question. I heard everything up to the last part.
My question is, what numbers, okay, is where Howard County is going to come back and say Bethany Lane can't sustain the additional traffic?
Honestly, I don't know what Howard County will say. I know what we'll say.
What would you say?
We'll give them our traffic study done by of excellent.
Here's traffic study right here, 16 days.
What just happened? Speak again?
Yeah, we'll give. Sorry. I can speak.
You want to use my mic here?
Thank you. What I was going to say is that I don't know the source of your traffic study. I'm sure it's fine.
It's right here, Howard County. I didn't make this up. I didn't make this up.
So
Here, I brought you a copy too.
it's a good question. Give me answers. Here's how it works. Howard County will not allow us to use their traffic study. They're going to make us do our own. Then they're going to compare our traffic study to theirs
Okay.
to make sure that we are in the same ballpark. I mean, I guess there's minor changes depending on what day you're there, but we'll be required to do a traffic study. If I haven't had a chance to read what you gave me, but I'm sure it's fine, and I'm sure the county will say, well, let's compare it, see where we are. And when they do, they're going to make judgments, and they're going to write us a comment letter that says you have to do the following to make these roads safe. And if we don't address those comments, our plans will not be approved.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, I got this information from those of you that travel Bethany Lane, that you know they do speed control. And there is a nice police officer that usually sits there at the church, a lady. I saw her at Home Depot last week and asked her about this, and she was kind enough to give me the information. And I also told her what was going on, and she is devastated. They can't even control the traffic as it is today. Then we would know how they're going to address it with these additional cars. The second question I have is, I know you've been preaching that this is going to be 55 and older, and there's not going to be any kids and so forth. My oldest daughter graduated from Mount Hebron, and it was before Mount Hebron was renovated. The school was very crowded. And the reports that I was getting as the reason why it was, part of it was overcrowded is because kids from Baltimore City and Baltimore County were going to Hebron. The way they got around it is their grandparents lived in Howard County. So somehow they got through it and legally claimed that their granddaughter or grandson lived with them. So they were able to attend the school. So people are very creative. So my question is, I know you're saying by the law they can't do it. I want to know how that is going to be controlled. And you said something about it takes Howard County 5 years to get someone out to address it. I must have missed that. Well, 5 years, someone's already graduated from high school. So how is that addressed?
The 5-year rule is regarding the age restriction requirement of the 55 and older. There is no 5-year rule for school-age kids living in the units for more than 90 calendar days. So there's no wiggle room on that. In terms of somebody using an address that's really outside of the county. It's honestly something I hadn't thought of before, but I mean, I'd be more than happy to provide Howard County school systems our address list as soon as we have it, so that they're able to cross-reference and make sure that nobody's claiming any of these addresses as their residence.
Okay, well, you guys done this before. I mean, you've built other 55 and above communities, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the question is, I mean, you, by law, the way the law is designed, it's not really designed to be equal, it's designed to be fair. If someone knows those loopholes, they can push it and push it and push it until they have a child living there until they graduate from high school and say, okay, we'll let them out now. So my question is, how is that controlled? Is the police going to show up and evict them? Are they going to drag them out? How is that addressed?
I mean,
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. You guys are the experts on this.
It is addressed through like I said, initially through the Homeowners Association Declaration of Covenants. If the Homeowners Association is unable to resolve the issue that is occurring in one of the residents, the Howard County Department of Planning and Zoning would be the other authority here, and the zoning authority has the right to come out and enforce its zoning code over this property.
just sometimes it helps to think of examples. It'd be just like if you built your swimming pool and put it 5 feet onto your neighbor's property. You could do it.
Sure.
Expect the county to come right out and enforce the law. It's the same thing.
Sure.
And
But
on
it
the
would take me
topic,
2
on the
years.
topic
I can
of
push it
the,
off for 2 years.
on the topic of the 55 and the 5-year window, it helps me to think of examples. So here's the example. You're 55 and your wife's 53. You have an 18-year-old son who's a freshman at Maryland. Unfortunately, the gentleman dies. The son, who's 18, still has the right to come home on winter break and spring break and things like that. But they don't evict his mother because she's 51. They say, you know, we're going to give you a chance to sort this out, to find a new place to live if you need to, or to grow 55 quick, or whatever it takes to do. But it's just I think it's just a reasonable, fair way to deal with people. No one's trying to sneak kids by or anything.
Okay, that's a fair answer. And my only comment is you guys shouldn't be selling the fact that people aren't going to be in that school. There are loopholes, you just said it. You should not be advertising as every other word you're saying, 55 and older, no kids.
Howard County has a very robust program of address certification. What it ends up meaning to the county is $15,000 per student per year for anybody who is being fraudulent with the system. And they have very robust systems. We could get more information from them in terms of how they go about with address verification. I have changed my kids. I've moved in the county before and have been required a very long list of documents in order to verify, you know, where I live and what school my kids are allowed to go to. And I mean, just anecdotally, I have an acquaintance that I knew had a townhouse somewhere, and then had parents live somewhere else, and she wanted her kid to go to the school that the parents went into. And neither of these were age restricted, but they were different elementary schools. And it didn't last very long. It was a period of weeks before she was cited and required for her son to go to the correct school.
Okay, just one more comment, and I'll hand the microphone over. $15,000, I'd pay that to let my kid go to the best school in Maryland, if that's the fine.
Hi, my name is Brian. I understand that you did your traffic studies a few months back before the construction started on Patapsco Estates. And so my question, I guess, maybe you can answer it, I guess it's more of a county question, but with 200 single-family homes going in there and 30 townhomes, I guess, on further out 99 and the smaller development across from Mount Hebron, are you required to make any assumptions regarding the traffic that's going to be created by those communities that aren't yet built?
Yes, our traffic study is required to include every single plan that's even been proposed in the area, even once it's at preliminary, community input stage like we are now. As soon as a submission has been made to the county, it gets incorporated into everyone else's traffic studies around you.
Okay, thank you.
Dan Zarlenga, I live in Valley Mead. I'm going to address an issue that bothers me, but it's primarily, I apologize to the people north of 70. This is regarding south of Route 70. When that development, however many homes you do place in there, when that development is completed, there are going to be two main traffic issues. One is obviously, and you've heard it multiple times, the problem with accessing and using Bethany Lane. The second one is that when those people have problems getting on Bethany Lane, they're going to jump on to Longview, and come down Michael's Way. Okay, and I dare say that the lion's share of all of that housing south of 70 will begin to use Michael's Way as their primary access to Route 40. My question is that you have a natural barrier, a 100-year floodplain, that separates what I call the Longview Loop. and the northern part of that floodplain, which is there's a road that runs parallel to Bethany Lane and connects the Longview Loop with the northern part of the development that's north of the floodplain. Am I making sense? Why was it not entertained to terminate that road at the floodplain, such that the housing north of the floodplain accesses Bethany Lane? It would reduce the volume of traffic to Bethany Lane. The housing south of the floodplain would access Michael's Way. It would reduce the traffic to Michael's Way. It would mitigate two problems. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
You're talking about the crossing?
Yeah, go ahead. Right where it crosses,
Right
that's
there?
it. Terminate that. Cut the road right in half, stop it. The housing north of that development accesses Bethany Lane. The housing south of that has access to Michael's Way. And you eliminate traffic dumping onto Bethany Lane from this group going up there, and you eliminate the traffic in the northern part from fully accessing Michael's Way.
So the first answer is that we're supposed to be providing access within our community to the amenities that we're providing within the community.
Well, we've already decided there are no amenities close to this development, so go ahead.
We are building a community building that will be 3,370 square feet as a requirement.
There's no access for the houses that are north of 70 for that.
There's roadway, as well as we will be constructing walkways across the bridge
I
where
have
there
no
is an
problems with any
existing.
walkways. I'm just saying traffic flow, because that south of Route 70, I'll guarantee, if I lived there, I would be coming down Michael's Way because of the traffic load getting on and off Bethany Lane. And you're now providing every single person in there to drive down Michael's Way. So that's, what, 200 homes? Is that what's south? So most of the traffic that you're talking about, trips up and down to and from home, are going to be coming down Michael's Way.
Or Longview.
Pardon me?
Or Longview.
Well, Longview, yeah, but the only way to get to, that's my point, the only way to get to Route 40 is to come Longview to Michael's Way. There is no other option, really. I mean, and you'll be cutting, if somebody wanted to go to Route 29, you're cutting your trip in half to come down Michael's Way rather than to either go out to Bethany Lane and travel down Bethany Lane to Route 40 or to go up to Route 99, which everybody's going to want to avoid. So you're dumping nearly all of that traffic on Michael's Way. So I think it needs to be considered. All you need to do is cut that thing in half.
There's one other county requirement that factors into the number of entrances, and that is when you get over 99 units, you're required to have 2 entrances, and which is why we have proposed.
So reduce a couple homes down to 99 and we're set.
Hi, my name is John Albert, and I live over at Stillleaf Lane, which backs up to the one side over there on the right. I had a couple of questions. One was, in terms of the sound barriers, one of the concerns that a lot of us have is with any increase in noise from 70, and unfortunately, I guess people don't realize is that sound barriers don't really have much of an impact beyond the immediate highway itself, and in fact, depending on how those sound barriers constructed, could actually increase road noise for those of us who live further away behind the subdivisions. And I know that where I live, which is in a lower part of the north side of Valley Mead, we do get a lot of highway noise coming down that stream valley on the right-hand side. So that was my one concern. I just wanted to bring it up that there are different types of sound barriers, and the cheapest ones, unfortunately, are the ones that reflect noise. And if you have sound barriers on the north side of 70, the noise from that could bounce down to Valley Mead. And then, of course, the sound barriers on the south side of 70, the noise could actually reflect back up into Mount Hebron and such. So that was my one concern. Another is... Yeah.
I think I can.
Yeah, sure.
Like we have to hire traffic engineers who have expertise in just traffic, we also have to hire noise design engineers to design these walls.
Okay.
What we're required to do is to first measure the unmitigated 65 decibel line. That's 65 decibels is what the county says you must be quieter than. So
Now,
first
is that before you clear cut everything, or is that after? Because the trees form a natural sound barrier, and they're very tall.
Do you want the answer?
Do you
want the answer?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the answer. We have to do an unmitigated noise study. That means today, what we find in the field today, we do an unmitigated noise study, and we find out where the 65 dB line falls today. It falls in some of the neighborhoods that you all live in.
Well, it depends on the conditions in the atmosphere. Some days it's extremely noisy, other days it's not. So that's the question is winter versus summer, tree cover or not. So that was my question. And there are sound barriers out there that are designed to absorb sound rather than reflect it, but unfortunately they cost more money. So a lot of municipalities as well as developers are loath to use them. But my input into this proposal is that I would like to see sound absorbing barriers, because I know that the other ones are not going to do much for where I live or a lot of my neighbors. So.
Okay.
Someone brought up recently a question about the federal versus local laws, and while I'm not an attorney, I do work with a lot of attorneys, and I can tell you that there may be certain rules regarding how many people you can allow into a development that are not under the age-restricted clause. The question is in all cases the federal statute will supersede any local or state statute, and if there is a conflict that someone feels that they're being hurt by, if litigation comes, that's when you end up having some of these laws thrown out. So I just want people to know that. So just because the state says something or the county says something or a local municipality says something, if it somehow crosses the statute and the intent of that statute in terms of how it was meant to be implemented, those local laws can be thrown out. So I just wanted to point that out. Also, I do have a concern also with and I mentioned this before when I was here for the non-pre-submission hearing, and that is the villas that back up to the Plum Tree Branch on the far right over there. The setback was set to only 30 feet, which technically you're allowed to do if the land, I guess, is not developable to the right of that, which is mostly like marshland and stream headwaters. But one concern I did have, and this is just a concern for input, is that area where those villas are, while it may not technically be a steep slope, according to the guidelines, which is a 25% slope, it is a slope and a fairly decent one. I wanted to know how you're going to avoid that runoff, whether you're going to, fill it in and create a steep slope next to that or whatnot. But again, I'm very concerned about the fact that those villas back up to a very pristine headwaters of Plum Tree Branch. Related to that also, I would second what the previous gentleman said. I have concerns about the road crossings degrading the stream. I also see all the trails, which are nice, but they also tend to degrade the streams. I also noted that a lot of the runoff protections were part of that 100-foot setback when you showed your drawing up there. So I guess, I hear all these great things, but at the same time, I see essentially a pristine headwaters being severely degraded through either cutting of trees on the far bottom right side, which is labeled as like open park space, which is actually tree covered now, the addition of multiple sediment ponds, 2 crossovers on the road. So, I mean, that's one thing I'm very concerned about in terms of that habitat through there being preserved, because it is a pretty nice one. And as was mentioned before, there are a lot of very large specimen trees in there as well. And other than that, I think that's all I had. So thank you very much.
My name is Elise Herman. I live on Hidden Haven Court, which comes out on Old Mill, and it is a single-family street that backs up to a current over 55 development. You know where that is. My comment tonight is this. The literature that I read is that people my age, and I'm over 70, the best thing is to stay as long as you can in your single-family home. I see a lot of people here with gray hair, and I'm going to take a poll, if you will permit me. Those of you that are over 55 or 65, I don't care which, do you plan to stay in your home as long as you can? Okay. All right. Do you plan to stay in Howard County or move to Florida or Delaware where the taxes are lower? So, now, previously you stated that the population for over 55 is going to increase. But did you see all those hands there? They may not be buying your units. And I'll make one more comment since I'm retired. And I can go to the store any time of the day that I would like. I often use Bethany Lane. And I have noticed since they put that wonderful turn lane on to 99 so that you can turn left onto 99, what happens for those of us that want to go across 99 and not turn left is that those cars turning left back up. And so you cannot get through to go over 99 until all those people have turned left onto 99, which means another light or two. So that's something you might want to watch in your traffic assessment.
Thank you. We will take a look at that traffic movement. As well, we recognize that an over 55 community is a housing choice. And that a lot of people don't choose to make that choice, but a lot of people do as well.
Hi, my name is Eric Vesey. I'm the president of the Maple Forest Homeowners Association. I live on Bracken Drive, a little bit to the north and west. But more importantly, well, 2 points. I'm a geographer, and I'm also going to be 55 in a few weeks, and I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I have gray hair, some of it. So I have 2 points about the geography of this, which kind of struck me as odd. So I was looking at the property on the Maryland State Property Registry, and interestingly, it's clearly not one piece of property. It's not one contiguous piece of property, right? But it's treated as such by the county because, presumably because Route 70 came along and they divided it up, right? And it makes more sense for the county to treat this as a single property rather than make 2 tax records and all that stuff, right? But functionally, it's obviously not a single property, right? So the geography of this, in looking this up on the state website, they listed as 60 acres, right? So if this is R20, 2 houses per acre, how do we get more than 120, given that, as you show on your plan, a fair amount of this can't be built upon? I just wonder where the number 141, I apologize, I came in late tonight, so I don't know if the numbers have changed since the previous meeting. But I don't know, you gave a contrast of 141 single family versus the larger number of the age restricted. And I just wonder, that's one point. My second point is that you put the community, so you said 370 square feet for the community building or something? What was the?
3,370.
Okay, because I was thinking you're going to get like a card table in there. But so from a geography perspective, that community center is not accessible, right? So I study human mobility, human geography. This is functionally 3 separate lots in terms of accessibility. You can't drive, you can't walk from any of these to any of the others, unless you're going to put a sidewalk behind that one property in the middle on the north side. I don't, you might be planning to do that, but you can't actually get from the northern above 70 pieces to that community center I'm 55. If I were living over on that second piece over there, I'm not walking across that bridge. I'm getting in my car if I need to go to the community center. I don't see how those people that live in the northern part can get to that community center. I don't see that the geography of it. I see them generating more trips if they're going to go and use the communities, you know, the facilities that you're putting there for the community. It's great, but if it's not one contiguous property, they're not accessible. So that people have to actually go out of the community, get on 99, God help them, and Bethany. You said you were going to improve the sidewalk across the bridge, I guess. Are you going to add other, like for that other piece, will there be another, like a pedestrian bridge across? Or is there any way that those people will have some way of getting to that community resource other than driving? Because if they're driving, then that, again, goes all the other traffic problems. So those are my two questions. That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you. To start, the 145 single-family non-age-restricted plan is achieved by doing the RED option that is allowed under the R20 zone. We have, I know the tax record says 60 acres. Our boundary, which we have sitting up here on the stage, you're more than welcome to take a look at, is 68 acres. And we have a net acreage of 66 acres. And the RED allows you 2 units per net acre, plus 10% neighborhood transfer density import option. So you take the 66 acres, you're allowed 132 units. You are then allowed 13 additional units if you choose to go purchase the density elsewhere in order to get to the 145. Next, on your points about access, I mean, we have a couple of options for that northeastern pod, shall I call it, in terms of accessing around. We could do an additional nature trail, you know, along the back. We could talk to State Highway to see what their improvements are going to want to be, which might include sidewalks along 99. There's several options that are not yet determined at this point in time. The bridge across I-70 is a 5-foot wide sidewalk, which is the requirement for the county for safe ADA access. The idea is that you need to have it wide enough if 2 wheelchairs were to meet on that piece of roadway or sidewalk. And there would be, it would be very necessary as you're coming off that bridge for a new sidewalk to be constructed and be ADA compliant. Given the grade differences there, I would expect that sidewalk would potentially have switchbacks to it in order to get down to the community level in an ADA fashion.
Hi, I'm Roger Knight again. I'm going to be more explicit this time. I'm representing the Mount Hebron Orchards Community Association. I have some not very good news for a lot of folks here. It takes, at rush hour, likely 5 minutes to get out of our developments. Mount Hebron is behind Mount Hebron High School. The Orchards is on the south side of 99. So we requested the state, since Route 99 is a state highway, to do a traffic study. We claim that those are failed intersections at St. John's Lane, at Tiller Avenue, at Maple Rock, and at Mount Hebron Drive. The state came out and did a study during the month of May for several days. They not only counted cars, but they had observers at the intersections. And their result was that Route 99 is adequate and that it does not meet traffic lights.
At St. John's Lane, not at Bethany. That's where it fails, is at Bethany.
Well, it fails at Bethany also, and also at McKenzie. It's a dangerous intersection. So my question for Elm Street is, would you be willing to pay for traffic lights in some of these intersections that are impacted between your development and Route 99 and Route 29 along Route 99?
And I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself here, but we will be required to pass the adequate public facilities ordinance for traffic. And if there are failing intersections, we will have the choice to either not do the development or to pay for the improvements that are required to make those intersections passing intersections.
There you go. I'm sorry. Does that extend all the way to Route 29, or does that only extend for 1 mile from your development?
The rule is 1 mile from our job.
Okay, that's bad news.
Well, good evening, folks. My name is Bill Kelly. I live on Boxton Court, which is right across where it's Bethany Glen right there. I'm right off of Bethany, down the hill. I've been looking at this. First, I want to comment on our news reporter right here, Fatima Wasim. She has done one fantastic job. She's up here with the scar. I'll tell you. She's got the information in Howard County with 2 articles today. Thank you, Fatima. Good thing. But I'm concerned. I agree with all the people up there on this line here. And my first thing, this development will not fit in our community. You look at that map up there, almost every lot around is full of houses and whatever. We're taking the most pristine part of our community and putting more houses in it. And that doesn't make sense. We need a library up here. We need a community center. He said 3,000 feet. Some of the people's houses are bigger than that. 3,000 feet community center. That's about around in here. And that's not going to work. The traffic, I live in Bethany, and you come off that bridge, you head down there, if you're going over 42 miles an hour, you're going to get a ticket, guaranteed. I also ride a bicycle here too, it's another thing on it. But we've gotten short here. Thank you for all these 500 or 600 people who came out tonight. We have to contact our county councilperson, Greg Fox. Also, the LPs, our people, let's make this property into project open space for our community, for our children. This is years ago. We need a library up here. We need a senior center that we can walk to, drive to. We need a couple more sports fields for the people to be up there. We need to extend our Mount Hebron High School and practice field over there. We need to extend Engine 8 a little bit. They need some space up there. They're boxed in. We need a middle school up here. We need another elementary school up here. All these things are happening, and we have to do that. And we have the power to do this. Greg Fox came to our last meeting, which I appreciate he's going to be there. But Greg Fox is term limited. I don't know if his people are here. He'll get out of office next November the 17th, 2017. So we got to work with these people. There's money, there's state money, there's federal money, there's county money to buy this property. I don't know how much it is. I know Pat Hare probably knows, $2 to $3 million spread over 700 people. It's not a lot of money, but that's what I want to see happen. And 99 is too small. Bethany is too small. The parts on it. We need a post office. We lost our post office up the street. That's going to be senior too. Where's our post office going? Where's our garden? Where's our art garden? This is country moving into the city, and we've got to be, in control of this. I probably won't see this development, but my children, my grandchildren. And one last thing, and I'll wind down there. The Miller property down by the library, it took 10 years for that to build. There's 400 units in it. I talked to a lady yesterday. She paid $400,000 for a condominium, and then she paid $4,000 a month to live there. And they're talking about 15% of this being affordable housing. My question is, if you have a $4,000 unit, what do you bring it down to make it affordable?
Thank you all. Specifically, specifically the county requirement is moderate income housing unit, and on their website, they decipher exactly what income requirements are needed for each type of housing unit, restricted and unrestricted, and it's different for whether it's a condo building or a townhouse or a single family, and it's different based on how many, for the unrestricted units, for how many kids you have as well.
Yeah, my name is Joe Freilich, and I live in Valley Mead, downstream from this development here. And yeah, I'd echo his sentiment that it really doesn't seem like this fits with the rest of the surrounding neighborhood, just from the size. You look at the size of the lots compared to the single-family lots that are there. It just really doesn't look good. But my question is more about the density that's going in here. And I apologize if maybe you covered this earlier, but I spent most of your presentation on 99 traffic. Does every unit have a garage, or is there parking area around the town units at all? I mean, I can't tell from the map.
Every unit is going to have a two-car garage, as well as a two-car driveway for parking, so they can accommodate 4 cars per unit, for every unit, whether it's the elevator town, the villa, or the single family. In addition, along that 50-foot public right-of-way will be allowed, as other 50-foot public right-of-ways are in Howard County, parallel parking throughout the community, you know, for people throwing, you know, parties or different things like that.
Yeah. So my main concern for this use at this location here is the amount of impervious soil that you're going to take up. That, you know, today is not, you know, as free as just wildlife and grass and trees that feeds into that stream. And I live downstream from this stream, and I see, you know, like last week when we had the heavy rains, I see the water. I'm probably 100, 140 feet away from the real stream, but I see the water come up into my yard quite often. So my real question is, what are you doing about the stormwater management, and how much impact the amount of impervious soil is going to have here on all of the stream going the whole way down? I know there's a house down on Brookmead that was underwater a couple years ago, and now it's just a big hole in the ground because it's condemned and in the floodplain. And I think there are other houses along the stream that could be in danger with increased runoff from this type of density at this unit.
I was trying to pay careful attention, and I think there's 2 parts to your question. So the first part, storm management. Whenever this project or any other project, whenever you develop and you increase impervious surface, the new rules in the state and the county, the purpose of the new rules is to try to take the rain and put it into the ground and infiltrate into the ground where it would land today had we not built. In the old days, you used to send it to a pond someplace. Nowadays, they want it to go right into the ground, right where it lands, so it recharges the groundwater table the way it would have had we not been here. If we don't satisfy the county and state requirements, proving that to be the case, our plan doesn't get approved. Now, regarding flooding, I've been thinking about that a lot, especially with the stream crosses through a couple of lots that are off our site, that concerns me. I mean, right now, the houses are right next to a stream. So if you look at our storm management concept plan, you'll see a couple blue circles. I've kind of left placeholders because we're really thinking about how we're going to catch water, manage water, attenuate it so that we put no more water into that stream than is in that stream today, so we don't have any adverse impact on those people. So that's something that's very, very much on the front of our minds.
Okay, and I had another question about that stretch of 99 between, you know, basically Bethany Lane and St. John's Lane. Is there any plan, you know, from the state to either take more land there and widen that to more lanes, or is that on you guys once you develop it?
Widen 99?
Yes.
Yeah, what happens is we submit our plans to the county, and it gets distributed to 28 different folks, one of which is State Highways. And they look at it and they say, what does State Highway has for their own plan for 99? And then they tell us that what they want us to do is to either widen lanes or add auxiliary lanes or add bike trails, which I bet they will, or whatever it is that the State Highway requires of us, we need to do if we want their approval, and we need their approval.
So is there a plan for 99 that the state has?
The trouble with these kinds of meetings is that we come to you at the earliest possible stage before anything has been submitted to the county to have these kinds of conversations. But what I want to emphasize is that as the plan develops through sketch, preliminary, and final, these meetings continue, and your access to the plans and your input continues. So I don't want anybody to think that just because we have this conceptual plan now, this is your one chance to learn whether there's a sidewalk someplace. These things will be told to us as we go through the process, and you'll have every opportunity to review the plans, both online, at the county. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities.
Yeah. So I'll just make one comment too about the traffic survey. I gave up trying to make a right-hand turn out of the lower lot of Hebron at 7 in the morning after dropping my daughters off.
Yes, sir.
Because it's impossible. And I think that it's, I look at the 1 to 2 year experienced drivers who have to take their life in their own hands to get to and from school every day.
Yep.
So I got a question about the survey that was done there, the traffic survey. Did it include the Hebron access? Did they have people watching that? Do you know, anybody?
When they look at these things, sir, when they look at these things, they look at the peak critical hours, the 7 o'clock, the 8 o'clock in the morning, the 5, 6, 7 o'clock rush hour at night. I think the traffic you're thinking of from kids getting to high school is probably more like 2, 3 in the afternoon.
No, 7 a.m.
I'm sorry?
7 a.m.
Okay, yeah. But I thought maybe you were worried
it's
about kids.
also going to be like that at 2 and 2 to 5 probably when everything's happening up there.
Yep,
So.
understood.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Bruns. I am part of a smaller group of people who has tried really hard to educate and inform the community of what's going on with your development. I appreciate you guys coming to do these meetings and answering all these questions. A few months ago when we first learned about this, we tried to really inform the community about what was going on and kind of keep them in touch with these meetings. And one of the ways that we decided to reach people was to put out banners and come up with a name and put together a website. The name that was floated was Save Howard County because we wanted to take all of Howard County into consideration because we didn't know how much of this high density stuff was going to be going around outside of Ellicott City. So we wanted to encompass the entire county because we all care about the entire county. And when I went to go buy the web domain a few months ago when I made those signs, I tried to get Save Howard County and SaveHoco.com, but both were taken. So I settled for Save Hoco and SaveHowardCountyNews.com. We went along our way, we put out the banners. Fast forward a couple months and we had the meeting a couple weeks ago with Greg Fox, and it came to light that when you went to SaveHowardCounty.com or SaveHoco.com, we were redirected to BethanyGlen.com. So we did some more digging. We had a couple of the people in our group do some digging, and it turns out that SaveHowardCounty.com is owned by Mr. Van Kirk here, along with SaveHowardCounty.info.net and .org, StopBethanyGlen.com.info.net.org.co.biz.us, StopHarbinDevelopment.com.info.net.org.co.biz. So my question is, you've continued to say that you're doing this development and it's going to have some impact and benefit to the community. When I see things like that, it makes me really hesitant to trust anything that's coming out of your mouth. Anytime you answer a question, you're standing up there, you have that smirk on your face like this doesn't mean anything to you. But we're all really upset about this, and it means something to us because we bought in this area to live in Ellicott City and to maintain the way that we want to live. So to see you standing up there with that smirk on your face and not taking this seriously, in my opinion, is really disheartening. So I'd like to hear your comment.
I apologize if you were interpreting my facial expression as a smirk. I certainly take this very seriously. I, as a practice, do acquire URLs that relate to our development in an attempt to try to get the information that we're interested in promoting about our plan, and to not have disinformation about our plan as well.
SaveHowardCounty.com, though, that name was socialized. You knew about the name, and you snatched up the URL so that we couldn't educate our community and kind of get the word out. What other way do we have to educate our community members about what's going on? And you went out there and did something devious, and on top of that, I wouldn't even have known that you bought the website name, but then you had the gall to redirect it to BethanyGlen.com as to shove it in our faces.
I apologize for... I do apologize for the redirecting incident. That was a mistake, and we are not forwarding anything to Bethany Glen at this time. And as soon as that came out, we stopped that immediately.
Whose decision was that?
And
you stopped it because
it was
you had
mine
several emails from the
to stop.
community.
Did that feel right to you? Did that feel right?
It does not feel right, which is why we stopped.
This is a serious matter for us. Like it's been stated many times, we have all these schools in our neighborhood, we all have children, there's no sidewalks around. We take this very seriously, and for you to do something like that really hurt. My next question is, when are you planning on submitting your plan to the county?
Can you ask that question again, please?
When is your plan to submit your plan to the county?
Ms. Furman, before you answer that question, I just want to ask for everyone to please be respectful and civil. If you we want to answer your questions and provide you with facts and information about the project. In the interest, there's a lot of people who want to ask questions but haven't had a chance yet. So if you could please be civil and respectful to Mr. Baines. He will be respectful to you.
I waited in line and I listened to everybody ask about door frames and all that.
This is not an opportunity for argument.
Lady is doing a fine job. We do not need anything else to say. She's doing a great
So
job.
I'll get off the stage now and let other people have their turn.
So So again, to address your question about plan submission, we don't have a specific timetable, but it's in the coming weeks, as soon as we're able to pull together the submission that we need to make. And again, I apologize for the forwarding. We stopped that immediately when the intent's not to upset anyone. We're interested in our plan being looked at and evaluated by the community.
My name is Jim Bale. I live on Thornbrook Road. Thank you for everything you've done. And on that note, I have one question, one comment. My comment is, this is not the only last piece of land available in this local area. I would suggest that you contact your county councilman and ask for a change in the zoning law, so that the signs they put up on the road are intelligible and understandable by somebody driving past, so that if they had to put up a sign that said, we want to build 230 houses on this land in the next 6 months, this community activity would have probably started a lot faster. I can't understand the zoning signs when I drive past them. So I'm going to contact my county councilman and ask for that change in the law, and I would ask that you do the same. My question for you is, assuming a normal process, you and other people have been transparent about how this process will happen, the zoning hearings and all of that. Assuming a normal process, and I don't think this is going to be a normal process, when is this going to happen? When are you going to break ground? What will the construction process be like? Will it be a 1-year job, a 2-year job? Will you clear the land and let it sit for a while? Or when is this going to actually happen?
There's a lot of factors that go into the length of the project. I would say that the plan approval process is a 2 to 3 year process. Now, when you're in that process, you do have to wait for your allocations. And that is what year do you end up getting sketch plan approval and what the allocation pool looks like at that time. You might have to wait several years, or you might not wait at all. It depends on how many plans are being approved right in front of you and how many allocations are available in that year's pool. Getting to the land development side, this is a complex, big, large site for land development. I would think that the site work would occur in a year to be able to get all the roads in, all the stream crossings and the improvements. The build out for the community at 238 homes could be you have to kind of estimate what you think your sales pace would be. If you were to say that we're building 40 or selling 45 homes per year, then you're at a 5-year build out for that community after the site development is complete.
Hi, my name is Breanne Chadwick. I live in Valleymead, just a little bit south of what is currently the Longview Dead End. I have a couple of questions and comments, and I will try and make it brief. One comment, I've heard repeatedly, the county will ensure this, the county will ensure that, the county. We're talking about the same county planning and roads division that decided it was a good idea to tear up and resurface the only road leading to our local middle school the last week of class. I mean, pardon me for not having a lot of faith in their decision-making process. One of the things that you mentioned, and I'm sorry, I'm bad with names, is that we will continue to have meetings, and this is not the only meeting where we get to give input. By combining the pre-submission meeting with another meeting that's supposed to happen much later in the process, that takes away one of our opportunities to have input on the development plan. And it seems to me, the way I read it, that it presupposes approval of the conditional use. And it skips forward several steps because the other meeting, and again, I don't remember the numbers or the terms, but the other meeting that you've combined the pre-submission meeting with should happen several steps later in the process. So what happens to take the place of that meeting when at that point in the plan, we no longer have a voice to give input?
The county requirement on the pre-submission community meeting guidelines is that the initial plan has to conduct a pre-submission community meeting. We've chosen in this case to include not only the requirements under the pre-submission community guidelines for conditional use, but to include the requirements for a subdivision plan as just added additional information that can be discussed here and evaluated. But that's the you could do this with only a pre-submission for the initial plan submission, which is the conditional use. Now, and then you have that community meeting is good for 1 year, and if you don't make that submission within 1 year, you have to do it again.
Okay, so we won't have another meeting for a subdivision plan because that's now combined with this one, is that correct?
That's correct. It's not, that would not be a requirement for the county. We asked them that question specifically, and the Office of Law responded saying that it was only for the initial submission.
Okay. So what is the subdivision plan? So, which intersections are you required to do traffic studies on?
We're required.
I know it's within a mile, but
Right.
specifically, like in Valleymead, how many of those intersections are you required to do a traffic study on?
Local roads are not a is not a requirement for the traffic study. It's,
Okay.
What's the requirement, Dave? Which roads are the requirements for this traffic study?
We're required to look at intersections of a certain standard. They have local roads. Excuse me. They have local roads, collector roads, things like that. The idea is that if a road is so small, like a little cul-de-sac, it wouldn't make sense to try to measure the traffic going to 6 houses. So what the county says is they make us look at every intersection of a collector road or greater, and every intersection like that within a 1 mile radius of our site.
Okay, does that include the Longview and Michaels intersection?
No, because those would, I don't believe those would be.
Longview is the main road in, Michaels is the main road out the other direction.
I'm sorry.
Longview is the main road into your development. Michaels is the main road out the other direction. There's currently a stop sign on the Michaels side and not on the Longview. As I drive down Longview to the Michaels intersection, the number of times where I've nearly had a heart attack because somebody has broadsided me maybe within inches. I've been here for 6 years and it's happened at least 7 or 8 times. I sat one day and counted the number of cars who come to a full stop at that stop sign, and I gave up after 6 hours and seeing 2. So whether it's required or not, it would be a show of good faith for you to actually include those kinds of intersections where people, my kids are not walkers, but they do walk to school. They come down the hill, and as you know, Longview is a hill. They come down that hill on their bicycles. They have the right of way, but if somebody is running that stop sign because they think Longview isn't a big enough road, it doesn't matter if my kids have the right of way. That's not gonna save their lives.
I understand.
The other last comment, you mentioned that the Bethany Bridge over 70 has a 5-foot wide sidewalk. It doesn't. I run that way. It may be a 5-foot wide shoulder, but it is 2 feet on the side of the striped line and then 3 feet of an elevated curb, which is not wide enough for anybody to pass anybody on. So if you're talking about building sidewalks or making the community center accessible, would you be then repaving, tearing up that bridge? Because it's not wide enough for 2 of anything to go by.
The ridges approaching the bridge, those do have to be reconstructed. The sidewalk that is actually part of the bridge on the east side is a 5-foot sidewalk.
No. I can show you a Google Map picture. Like I said, I run in this neighborhood. I run across that bridge, I don't want to say daily, but at least a couple times a week. And they're 2 feet on the side of the painted line and 3, I'll give it maybe 3.5 of the paved elevated curb.
I mean, if you see me after this, I last week laid a tape down on the sidewalk and took a picture of it. I'd be happy to compare pictures.
I would be interested to see the picture. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
For what it's worth, I was surprised too. It does make me fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello. Wow, for hello, that's pretty awesome. Hey, so that's my wife. She did a great job. I appreciate some of the comments that Kelly said as well. So you guys are very obviously very savvy business people and are doing things that are approved or allowed. But it's obvious that it's not the things that are really beneficial to the community. And I think that's what you're hearing a lot of the passion here. And so, some of the questions that I have are, when this gets denied by the county, what are your contingency plans? What are you planning to do?
I mean, at this point, that's not our thought process. To be quite honest here, and that would be reevaluated at that time. The obvious, next step, if a conditional use was not allowed, would be to do an as-of-right single-family development.
And so, why are you going forward with this rather than that?
The biggest reason for that is the timing as it relates to the wait for schools. And why we are standing where we are was because we were selected to be the contract purchaser And part of that had to do with the shorter time frame to the start of the development by the estate. And that was our proposal coming forward because we felt it was the less intense and better development for the facilities that are available in this area at this time, and why we chose to make that proposal to the estate as our development plan. There were many other proposals made to the estate, and I'm sure some of them were different than ours. And it was the personal representative for that estate that made that choice as to what direction he wanted to take the estate.
So you used the phrase that you think this is best for the community at this time, or that's what the facility they had. You got approved
for the facilities.
Everybody thought it would be the best. I think what you're hearing a lot of that it's not. And are you have any plans or willingness to change your perspectives?
I mean, we have a contract in place where we have stated that we are going to pursue the age-restricted adult housing community, and we are contractually obligated to do so, and plan to do so.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm President Shark. I live at the end of Longview Drive, and I noticed that for your revision of your site plan, if you look up there where the NOLIC is, it says, note, if proposed access point is deleted, a home may be placed in this location. So my main question is, if this proposed development is approved, what factors will determine if the NOLIC access point will be present? Because this could definitely make a big difference in the traffic flow from the proposed Bethany Glen to Valley Mead. It could definitely have a big effect on which way the traffic goes in and out of our development.
So the requirement with the number of units we have is to have 2 entrances. And we're proposing the Bethany Lane entrance to try to get traffic out onto Bethany Lane rather than going through Valley Mead. And that's the direction that we would like to go. As it is right now, there is only 2 entrances into the property through the 2 temporary T turnarounds on Knollwick and Longview. We're proposing that the Knollwick temporary T could be left because in my opinion, on the traffic movements there are ultimately going to either Longview or Bethany Lane. And there was previous comments, especially from the gentleman right behind you in line there, about concerns over direct traffic on Michael's Way in the sense that it doesn't have some of the speed humps that the rest of the community does have. And so we put it on the table as a possible option, realizing that we do have to have 2 entrances on the south side when it comes to getting the plan approved.
Thanks.
Hey Jason, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So I have a few questions and a few comments. One housekeeping item. We had asked people to put contact information on an envelope and drop it in one of the boxes outside, but apparently you all have a box in here that people are putting index cards with their information on?
We do.
Okay, can I request that in that box back there, anything that's in an envelope that was intended for us?
Certainly.
Be given to us after?
Certainly.
Thank you. So if you put an envelope in the box back there by Danielle, please come try to get it out at the end, or we'll have Jason go through and remove that. I have a couple questions, a couple points. So first, is the purchase by Elm Street dependent upon getting approval for the conditional use?
Yes.
All right. Is there a specific number of units that you are required to get as part of your contract? Is there a minimum number?
I mean, that is, there's no, at this point, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the authority to, with my counterparty, to discuss the details of the contract.
Okay. That's fine, I understand.
In the traffic survey that defines what the requirements are and the test times and how long, and see what we can put together and provide that as a link on the website to give you more information on that. And again, regarding the intersections, it falls to the adequate public facilities ordinance and us passing intersections, not failing intersections, or else our plan doesn't get approved.
But also, if you use today's traffic as a baseline, no matter what time of day people are traveling down Bethany Lane, down 99, wherever points that they're coming from the southeast corner to the northwest corner of your proposed plan, why not show what you're proposing and how that will change based on 238 units and 854 proposed trips per day? Because I feel that many of us are saying, where did you get this 854 trips per day number? And why should we feel that that is an acceptable number at all? Where is that data coming from?
I mean, my opinion on the acceptance of that number is that that's the number I'm required to use, because I'm required to use the Institute for Traffic Engineers Manual number 9. And we have no other.
What does that mean? We don't understand.
I mean, that's the state law, that's the Howard County law for evaluation of traffic. I don't have a choice to say, well,
Is
I
that
like.
based on age? You're saying that it's based on a 55 plus community?
I mean, I don't know the manual extremely well, but when you open up that manual, you'll see, they take communities and they evaluate those on a yearly basis, on a continuous basis, and they statistically put together what they publish in that manual. It's and again, we don't have a choice but to use that manual.
Okay.
You had another question there. I'm stuck on the manual. I can't remember what else you asked.
My main concerns have been just the safety and the traffic in the area, and I feel that a lot of people have mentioned that the data points that seem to be coming up aren't representative of actual traffic patterns.
And I recall now what I wanted to add in. The traffic study that will be ultimately submitted will include the traffic that is generated by our community, as it also includes all the other plans that are in process with the county. And they also apply certain growth rates to those traffic counts as well, as required by those regulations. Again, we'll try to pull together some form of those regulations to put on the website for additional information.
Hi, my name is Carl. I live on Michael's Way. My question is, you said earlier that you've done a lot of these 55 and older communities in the past, correct?
I mean, we, as a company, have done a lot of them. I personally have done one other in Howard County.
Okay. In size of scope, how do they compare to Bethany Glen?
Very similar products, villas and single families. 97 units is the one that we did down off Gorman Road in Laurel.
Okay. What kind of post-development metrics do you have on the impact on the community?
That one is still under construction. The home builders are selling homes in those communities, so I wouldn't have any metrics related to that community.
And the other ones outside of Howard County?
I can't say we've addressed that specifically, and I would think that the more appropriate thing would be other Howard County age-restricted communities, but we've not studied those at this time.
Okay, so there's no metrics on how many of them have stayed 55 and older and how the traffic has indeed been impacted, assuming it did or did not follow the models that you were projecting?
I can't speak to the traffic, but I can definitely speak to the age restriction, and that none of those have converted out of age restriction in Howard County, the ones that have been done.
And outside Howard County?
I I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so there's no post-development follow-up to determine if you've made the environment better?
From our standpoint, any of the active adult communities that Elm Street has done are still age-restricted communities, if you're asking that question. And Howard County has not had any age-restricted communities, changed after construction.
Okay. I did have one other question. Since it was brought to our attention about the URLs, will they now be made available to us?
I mean, I'd be happy to meet with you and talk about that as a possibility.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jack, and I live down in the Chatham section, down closer to Route 40. And my primary concern is the traffic, but everybody here has done a more than adequate job of covering that. I'm looking at a more practical, near-term, when the construction starts. Where do you perceive the construction equipment coming in and out of these two sections? I'm assuming the north side, it's mainly going to be off of Route 99. But for this other section, is it all going to be coming off of Bethany? Are we going to be seeing construction equipment moving up and down Michael's Way, Greenway?
I promise I don't mean to be evasive, but what I've tried to say to people is that we are at the absolute such an early stage in this process that we haven't begun to do set of control plans and traffic control plans and all the kinds of things that would study your concerns and find solutions for them. And so I'm not trying to be evasive. I just can't tell you something we don't know.
I'm just looking.
We're conscious of these things. We want to do it well.
I'm looking at the practicality. Bethany Lane is a two-lane road. That would be the primary. Just looking at your plans there, that would be the primary access for the western edge. But for this eastern edge and southern part, I don't see how you're going to be able to do anything but come through the neighborhoods or beat the crap out of Bethany Lane. Thank you.
I can't speak to what Howard County is going to require of us at this time, but your exact concerns about the truck traffic, construction traffic coming through the community is a big reason why we're proposing the Bethany Lane entrance. And one thing that we can do from our perspective is to make sure that we're developing the community as the houses get constructed in a manner in which we're encouraging the construction traffic to come in the better entrances over the worst entrances.
How you doing? My name is Trevor Baumgartner. I live in the Glen community across from Waverly Elementary. I just have a couple comments. I think that everyone here should be pretty proud of the attendance on a Thursday before a long holiday, not at Mount Hebron High School, but at Marriott Ridge, which is convenient that it's all the way out here instead of where we actually had the traffic problems so we could experience them. The comment I have is I've gone through a similar kind of contestation on some zoning over at Shipley's Grant several years ago, and one trap that I don't want us to fall into is to forget how they try to divert things back and forth. And what I mean by that is, if you'll recall, on the 15th, we met with the councilman, and a lot of the comments were about the developers. Well, the developers will tell you the developers will do this. It's up to the developers. We're now meeting with the developers, and a lot of the comments are, well, the county, the zoning board, the county, the councilman, well, it's up to them. Councilman Fox will, vote no, but the other councilman might vote yes. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that we need to pay attention to both sides of this equation, not just the developers, but also our legislators. And we need to hold both sides equally accountable if this development goes through as planned. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but just like Mike, this is my community, this is my home. It's not business for me, so I apologize for that in advance. Also, I wear red inside, just so you know. The black is here because I do mourn our future between Patapsco and Bethany Glen. That's why I chose to wear black, to mourn our future. I like to be honest, and I appreciate that you gentlemen stated our previous meeting and today that you want to go from a point of being good steward, good neighbor, respectful. So we agreed to be honest with each other, right? Okay. Having said that, 66 acres total of usable land equals 144 single-family homes. And I'm sorry I forgot my drawing. I'm not architect, but I did some plans at home. The way that land is on the north side and on the south side, no way you can put 144 homes. So why are you telling us that? That's number one. Please.
It's not my job to design projects we're not going to do, but I wanted to be prepared for questions like yours. So I did plans.
Okay.
And I convinced myself, and if my client directs me, I'll convince everyone that the very acceptable plans can be produced that would meet all the county guidelines that would yield 145 units.
And that takes into the account the watershed, the protected green area, and the thin stripe over there?
I'd be silly to draw plans that couldn't be approved and then try to tell you they could. So
Okay.
we abide by the rules, lay out the plans, and try to prepare a plan that's defendable to your comments and to the county review, so that we could tell you honestly that we could get 145 units if we wanted to.
And you think you're going to be able to sell a single family for $600,000 in that strip of land? I know what county says, what the rules, but we also need to go what's reality. Okay, honest. That's fair. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. 238 units, correct? Yeah. Okay. So you said each townhome and villa will have 2 cars. Option to have 2 cars.
It's a 2-car garage.
Okay, 2-car garage. So in reality, 2 cars. So 238 multiplied by 2.
I'd just like to say I see a lot of garages that don't have cars in them, so.
Okay, but let's, you're making a lot of assumptions, so allow me to make an assumption.
Okay.
238 multiplied by 2. I'm sorry, I'm bad in math. Help me out, engineers. 476 multiplied by 2. Over 900, close to 1,000. So if each spouse in those 55 plus takes 2 trips, not 1, 2, you're pushing 900. And that's without visiting the pool. So I know where you take your numbers, sir. I know the manual. We all agree on that last time. But the manual is only average. Am I correct? Yes or no?
Correct.
Correct. Do average include most of the time neighborhoods that are across Highway 70 with a pool on one side and no pool on the other side? Yes or no? No. Okay, great. Another thing that I want to point out. You say that you want to be a good neighbor, and I'm sorry, sir, the former Mount Hebron, the name, I forgot.
Dave.
Dave. Okay. So Dave, I appreciate that you have nice feelings for the community. So if you want to be a good neighbor, shouldn't you be already planning to widen roads and not to wait for the county to punt it back at you? I mean, not what is required. We're talking about being good neighbors. You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer. If we're going to talk be honest and respectful, we need to be honest and respectful both ways. And now I just have one last question. Which one of you gentlemen that after the previous meeting went for a drink afterwards and made fun of us on the parking lot? Do you know how I know? I was the last car on the parking lot with my little girl over there when you were making fun of us, waving your hands and like, oh yeah, traffic, don't worry. So which one of you here will apologize?
The same guy that did the girl.
Because you know what I'm talking about. You were standing in front of the church during the conversation when you were deciding when you're going to go for a drink. And I listened to your conversation. I didn't have the mind to actually tape it. So which one will apologize now? If we're being honest and good neighbors and good stewards. You, sir? They're pointing at you. You got to be the boss.
I might have made a comment.
You might have made a comment? So you're going to be man enough to apologize to these people for making fun of us?
Sure. And I just want to say I didn't raise my hands. All I said is we got to watch the traffic when we turn out of Bethany. So it was no disrespect to anybody here.
Who are you?
Oh, hi, I'm Brandon Rao.
Who are you?
Civil engineer with Bowler Engineering.
So civil means civil, yes? Let's start with you. All right.
Absolutely. And I don't
Civil.
understand. Thank you.
Hi, geography guy again. I just wanted to make a, I'm trying to provide constructive, as it were, comment, because this is going to come up in the planning and zoning meetings. And to make that point, a lot of the comments we made about traffic, like whether those traffic standards are applicable or not, these guys have to abide by the law. So if we don't think that those traffic numbers are right or that they don't make sense for this community because of the geography, we need to make that case to the county, right? I mean, right, these guys have to abide by the rules, and I appreciate your patience in explaining those things and in hearing us out. We're talking to each other as much as we're talking to you. But the comment I had about the geography here is to go back to the issue of accessibility. I didn't really mean ADA accessibility. What I meant was for the people to get from their homes to other places, and that's how you understand the traffic here. And that's what I meant when I view this property as 3 separate pieces. That swimming pool, if I live in your community and I want to walk to the swimming pool, if I live north of 70, I can't walk there, right? Especially if I live in that B parcel. There isn't a way to walk. I'm not going to walk along 99 in front of the crazy fence with all the barbed wire and all that, right? You know what I'm talking about. Unless maybe you put a sidewalk behind there. I'm thinking this is something that you could design into this, and that would include maybe a pedestrian bridge across 70. I'm just thinking, when I'm saying accessibility, I mean, if the pool is way over here in this corner of this big piece, it's not easily accessible, not in terms of wheelchairs and ADA accessibility, but just for me to get to my house, it's hard to get there from a lot of the parts of the property, and that might be something to consider, whether that's, I know that you tend to build, when you build a development, you tend to put those things toward the front, and that's part of the sales and all that stuff, but putting it in the middle would make it a better geography for people that live there. Now, I know that this is going to come up in the zoning decisions when we're talking about this, because the people that live north of 70, they're going to drive to the pool. And that's why you have a big parking lot outside the pool. People that live in this thing, a lot of the parts of this property, I would drive. I'm 55, I have little kids. I'm not going to walk from way down there, even in the bottom part, it's the same physical property. I'm going to drive, and that's why you have a parking lot outside the pool. I mean, people on the north side of 70 aren't going to be walking to the pool. So it might be something to consider in your planning, to maybe think about making it so that people can get there. And that comes to play when you think about the traffic. Where are these people going to go to the grocery store? How many people go to Wise? How many people go to Safeway? How many people are going to go to the new Giant? There's a brand new Giant, right? Where are they going to go, right? They're going to go down, and they're going to go through those neighborhoods, right? And that's where, if we want to make the case that that's going to impact those neighborhoods, that most of these people in here are going to go to a brand new Giant that's just been built down in Chatham, right? If those roads are not part of the county says you don't have to count traffic on those roads, we don't have to, it's not going to help us to convince these guys, right? We have to convince the county that that should be a requirement. And so a lot of the traffic issues that have come up tonight, they need to be made to the county, as somebody said earlier. If you want to change those things, these guys have to abide by the law, which the county sets. So if we don't think those planning and zoning regulations are fit, they don't work for us, I mean, they're patient enough to let us talk about them to each other, and they have to, so thanks for that. But, and I know it's not easy to be here while we're all yelling at you, but we, as a group, need to talk to the county and to the zoning people about that, okay?
When is the time for us to do that? Is that going to be at the hearing, or is there time before that?
Presumably, and there will be county meetings before and after that, but again, this is for them to share information with us. Because they have to. Because they have to. If we want to put our ideas in, I think we have to. I don't know how to do that, but
I think we need to find that person that cares and approves the plan for use and get in front of them.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys want to comment on when that is actually going to come together.
Ma'am, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, just 2 points. just looking at the numbers, in terms of the 238 houses and the 854 trips, don't forget that one trip is the trip out, and the next trip is the trip in. So the idea that each of these units would only be using this, only be making 1 to 1.5 trips a day for 24/7 living at home is not a realistic number. It's totally contrived. So the whole idea of a 54 generating that low a traffic number is not a realistic, or it's a way to shove 55 plus units into an area and provide some kind of a false metric. The other thing that I'd like to ask, the second point, I'm not sure, based on what I've heard so far, the difference between a pre-submission community meeting for conditional use, which I thought is what we've been doing the last, the one that we almost did, but it wasn't official, now this one, and also what the subdivision plan discussion is that we're supposed to be discussing and evaluating. So what is this subdivision plan, and can you talk about that so we can evaluate it and discuss it? Because we haven't heard anything, I don't believe.
I mean, you want to say something?
Yes, to answer your question, each of the homes that are proposed to be built on the property will be subdivided into individual lots and will be conveyed in fee simple. So sometimes you may not have that. You could have an apartment complex, for example, where there would not be any subdivision. And in this case, because there is going to be subdivision, that's why we're informing you of that at this time, so you have as much information available to you at an earlier time as possible.
Well, that's the first little nugget we've heard, and what is the implication? It's subdivided because it's going to be sold by the lot. Is that the story? The difference between that and an apartment?
Yes, individual lots will be conveyed out to individual families or individual purchasers.
And so why do we need to evaluate and discuss that? What are the implications?
Well, to be honest with you, I agree with you. I mean, I think there's not a need for two separate independent meetings, when there really should only be one requirement for a pre-submission community meeting. That's my opinion. But the county's regulations require that there be, for example, suppose there was already the zoning in place that you wanted to use, you wouldn't have a pre-submission community meeting for the zoning side of it. You would only have a pre-submission meeting for the subdivision side. But because this project starts off with a conditional use, there's an opportunity here to answer more questions up front by having these two meetings combined. And just to be sure, it does assume, obviously, that the conditional use is approved. If the conditional use isn't approved, then the subdivision as proposed will not go forward either. And then the second thing it assumes is that a plan will be submitted within a year of today. Because if a plan is not submitted within a year of today, another pre-submission meeting would have to be held.
A subdivision plan, is that
Yes.
what that is?
Yep.
And what are the nuances or the things that we should be concerned about? Obviously, this isn't our area of expertise, and for them, can you give us any more that we should be concerned?
I would say that you heard a lot of the questions tonight. Did you hear questions about construction traffic and all that kind of stuff? Those are things, and stormwater, those are related to the actual development, the physical development of the property. In order to be able to answer and entertain some of those questions, as many as we could that we had information on, that's the benefit of having a combined meeting tonight. And incidentally, the decision to do that was when we had the first effort to have a conditional use meeting, we were bombarded with questions that we knew came later in the process typically. So we thought if we combined them together and if we did a little bit more homework, because we had, 6 weeks or so that we could do some things, that we'd be able to answer your questions and be prepared. So that was the purpose of combining the two meetings.
But you haven't been able to answer a great deal of those questions because it's too early in the
No.
process. Why wouldn't it be more productive
Yeah, we've
to have
answered-
a subdivision meeting later in the process when
No.
you're able to answer questions?
We've answered as many questions that we could, like suppose we waited a year, it would be in the same position, because Mr. Wessner hasn't done all those calculations and water runoff velocities and infiltration into soils and things like that. So whether we did it a year from now or tonight, we're in the same information. We can offer you as much tonight as we could have offered you if we had it later in the...
You won't have any more information in 1 year? Right? Is that what
I mean, at this point, we're working on the conditional use, and the hard engineering of the plan occurs to the point for us to be able to put together the concept plan, which we've presented here tonight. And until we know we're moving forward with that plan, and that's what Bill Erskine is referring to, is that, until we turn the crank with the engineers to really do all the analysis and those sorts of things, we don't know any more than what we know right now. And so, when he says a year later, he's just saying, if we were at this same spot a year later, but we hadn't processed plans with the county at all, we wouldn't know anything else until we do that processing with the county.
Does the subdivision plan have to do with the size of the lots and the size of the units going on? And the fact that we want larger lots and larger units? And that's a key point that we want to be able to stick to and to be able to
the subdivision plan follows the different zones that are in the residential zoning code, and they have bulk regulations in those zoning codes for what the minimum and maximum side setbacks, rear, front, area coverages. It's different for all the zones. And that's what's incorporated into that subdivision plan based on the bulk regulations for the zone that you're allowed to build.
So what is represented here is the subdivision plan, or is there another document that we need to be looking at?
I mean, this is a concept plan. A subdivision plan comes in really two forms. You have sketch plan and you have preliminary equivalent sketch plan. Not too different in the process. Preliminary equivalent has a little bit more information, but it's a multi-set sheet of plans that we need to do as the initial submission for the subdivision plan.
So how can we discuss and evaluate it when it hasn't been presented to us?
We are required when we make that initial subdivision plan submission to let everyone know that has given us their contact information that the plan has been submitted and is available at DPZ.
And at what point can we discuss this? Because obviously you can't just paper over this because we haven't seen it. We need to have an opportunity to review it and discuss it.
I mean, the review, the county starts that review process, and that's when we're required to notify who came to the pre-submission community meeting that the plan is under review by the county, and that is that time frame to go review what it is that we submitted. The county on the initial submission has 60 days to put together their comments and get them back to us, and that's the time when that plan's ready and available for anyone in the public to walk into the DPZ help counter and request a copy of the plan.
And at what point do we give input?
I believe the county code says that they are required to take a meeting if you ask for one to give input into what your thoughts are as well. And you're welcome to contact me as well if you're once you review that plan and give me comments as well.
Okay. Anybody else want to follow up on that? Okay.
Hi. My name is Suzanne Aneker. I live on Bethany Lane. I have a personal observation. I go to Nob Hill Swim Club, which is across from Miller Grant. And with speaking to a lot of my friends there, they said that when Miller Grant was built, there was a huge influx of people that decided to get up and move to Miller Grant, and then they had new homes. So my concern is, oh, and also I have an aunt that moved from near 29 and Rogers Ave to the landfill place. So what's happening is you look at these people who are getting up and moving, and instead of just building 100 single-family homes, you're now opening up 240 single-family homes in the 4-mile radius for new families. So you think you're not affecting the schools, but you are. So is there a way I can request that you do any sort of market research to see which homes are going to be freed up when the 55+ move?
I mean, we don't know who the buyers are that walk into the models and where they're coming from. I certainly acknowledge that there is a buyer group that is looking to stay in the local area. I also know from working with the HOA in our other active adult community that it's not. I mean, it's not anywhere close to 100% of those. It's it's other families that, or really parents that are looking to be closer to grandkids. It's a whole host of different reasons and places that people move from.
For sure. Can I ask for a market research by some group, maybe a traffic group has a friend, that can do some sort of a market study to see, you're going to impact the schools and you don't even know it, or you're choosing to ignore it. It's there. It's a problem. I'd rather you build 100 single-family homes so I know what I'm dealing with than 240 from around the area.
And the moving out of residents into other living situations, I mean, that's going to occur whether they move down the street to a age-restricted community or not. I mean, there's a turnover that occurs in these communities. I mean, I bought to a house that was built in the 60s when I first moved to Howard County, and those, a lot of people do that as their choice when they move into the county. It's where the price point is that is available to them, and there was somebody moving out of that community that no longer wanted to have the responsibility for taking care of that house.
So is there a way for me to request a market study? I didn't hear yes or no, so there's nothing.
I'm not sure what the market study. I'd be happy to talk with you afterwards, but I'm not sure what the market study would be.
Do I ask the county? Because there's going to be a problem. I want to know. So I know you probably don't have a requirement. Someone, can I ask the county for that?
The county could be a possible avenue to go with that. I could suggest a couple departments to you.
Please do. Yeah.
We're coming up on the 3-hour mark here. So what I'd like to do is, if everyone, we hear you about traffic, so not a need to go into traffic, I would suggest, any further. In order to give people who are in line an opportunity to speak, if you could be really concise in your questions or in your comments.
Is there a time limit?
Well, there's a practical one. We've got two very kind custodians in the back.
We need due diligence.
Yeah.
So you don't have to rush it.
Well, we're trying not to cut anybody else off, but I'd like to hit, not to repeat concerns if we could.
And let's just keep in mind, if there's any other questions that don't get brought up here that you think of later, we have an avenue on our website to ask those questions. Anything done here in the next few hours after this meeting, we're happy to include in the minutes of the meeting with responses.
My name is Chuck. I live on the north side, off Route 99, near Bethany Lane and Leader Drive. I just have two quick questions. About a half hour ago, you mentioned a Millwick temporary T. Can you please clarify?
The Knollwick temporary T is right here off of Michael's Way.
Okay. Why is it referred to as Millwick? Is that...
Knollwick.
I'm sorry.
Knollwick.
Knollwick. Thank you.
Knollwick.
Second, do you promise to fund a light or traffic circle at Leader Drive if you are required to do so?
I mean, if we're required to do traffic improvements, I mean, I expect that we will do those traffic improvements, that it will make sense in the development of this property. But or we choose to not do the development. Those are our choices.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Weibel,
and I live on Longview near Michael's Way. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about traffic, but I still feel compelled that I should be allowed to speak, and I will do so. Thank you. I have a Plan A, and my Plan A, unfortunately, the county doesn't agree with, and it's been mentioned here tonight, which would be to open that property up and allow the citizens to use it as common property, whether it be a park, a library, or a school. Something, we all talk about open space and green initiatives, and this county is supposedly a leader in that. I realize you may not be able to do much about it. We all should, but that's Plan A. Now I'm going to give you Plan B for what you have. Since you don't have a backup plan, this is what I would suggest. I live off of Longview. I've been in this community for 17 years. And there's no reason for you to have traffic coming through our community and disrupting our community to fulfill your plans. What should happen is you should build less homes because something's going to go in there. Less homes on larger acreage and only one entrance, and then you figure out where that one entrance is going to be, because it's not, shouldn't be coming through our neighborhood. I pay my taxes, a lot of taxes, just like these people do. And there's no reason to open up our community to solve a county, state, I don't care, national traffic problem. And that's how I feel. I think a lot of people here feel the same way. And I don't think safety should be your top priority. And we brought into these communities so we could live here and not deal with the problems that you were going to bring. No connection to Valley Mead. No connection at all. I'm sorry, I can't speak to the north side, but that's what I believe you should do on the south side. Think about Plan B if you've got to go ahead and put something in on that property, other than something that would benefit the community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stanik Staniszewski. I would like to make a quick comment on your practices to divert internet traffic. The clear intent is actually to change the outcome of this meeting for your financial gain. And it is the classic type of cyber crime. That's why, for the record, I would like to call Howard County to investigate this case further. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Durnick, and I happen to live on Longview and Michael's Way, the gateway to Bethany Glen. I've lived there 25 years. I've raised 3 children there. I plan to be buried in the backyard. I don't intend to leave. I'm 65 years old and I vote. And I'm telling you, what you've told me tonight is I have now, when you guys start, 4 to 5 years of listening to construction vehicles, houses being built, power saws, power hammers, power nailers. What about my quality of life? And I think what we're looking at is our quality of life versus your profit making. And we don't want it. And I will tell you this right now, and I don't think we have any representatives of the county in here, but if there is a representative that axe murders nuns and his opponent has voted for your plan, I'm voting for the axe murderer. Thank you.
Hi, Brianna Chadwick again, and I still do want to see the picture of the 5-foot shoulder. Sure. But one question that I have not heard addressed, we bought our home just off of Longview deliberately because it was in a more rural area. You guys are going to turn that on its head. So what are you doing to reduce the impact of the lighting that your community will bring? Because as a 55 and older, I'm guessing that the residents aren't going to want dark streets. They're going to want to be able to see. We have no street lights. We like it that way. We can see stars. I can go out at night and see animals. What are you doing to reduce the impact of the light pollution? Are you going to use full cutoff light fixtures? Are you going to have downward facing streetlights so that the light leak doesn't encroach into our properties?
We don't have our lighting plan, obviously, together at this point, but I'm certainly open to, especially on the perimeter lighting, that, as you said, the different options of blocking lighting going in certain directions. We're certainly open to that as an option. We just have to meet what the Howard County is going to require us to do at the intersections. But certainly on the edges where we have some options, I'm happy to discuss those options with you.
So if Howard County doesn't require anything that would mitigate that light addition in our backyards, are you going to do it?
Well, like I said, they're not going to require a mitigation, they're going to require a certain amount of lighting.
If they require a certain amount of light, then how can we have entire streets without streetlights?
Because of the time frame of which the development occurred. And nowadays, the subdivision regulations in this zone of the county require certain lighting requirements. The only zones that don't require lighting requirements are the Western County rural residential and rural conservation zones are the only ones that you can get away without doing lighting.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, hi, Jim Matsakis. I live down behind Mount Hebron. I'm a member of the Mount Hebron Community Association. All right, that's better, sorry. Okay, Jim Matsakis. I live in the Mount Hebron community near Mount Hebron High School. And I just have some general commentary, okay? The gentleman here is a civil engineer. I'm an electrical engineer, worked for a major aerospace company for about 40 years, okay? So just have a general comment about what people tonight heard, which I, as an engineer, understand. You obviously did a feasibility study for this layout that you're presenting tonight here and we're commenting on. So I can understand why you don't have a lot of details such as traffic and the water drainage to meet watershed requirements and all that. But after the fact, per the county's process, you are abiding by the law. What concerns me is you're here tonight to hear the concerns of the community, yet what I hear is continual pushback where you don't seem to be very amenable to be willing to make alterations, throw in a little money to provide some enhancements to address some of the concerns of the community. It seems like you're going to try to maximize profit by meeting the letter of the law. That's your prerogative. I don't know of your company. I've never seen or heard of any development, and it looks like you've only done one in the county here, okay? I think that's what of this type of development.
One age restricted is.
Oh yeah, the restricted ones. That's what somebody asked that, and you mentioned there was one down in Laurel, I believe, right? Is that right?
Right, but we've done lots of developments in the community.
Okay, all right, good. So, all right, so you've done your feasibility study. Obviously, you think that you're going to be able to abide with the adequate facilities ordinance, which comes after the fact, and that's not your problem, it's the citizens' problem, because that's how our elected officials have set up the process. So in the future, maybe that could get changed so it could take place concurrently with your application. That's what I think should happen. So all those concerns you heard tonight could be addressed real time, right at the time of application for your exemption for the special zoning here. Okay, just a comment. And one last thought I wanted to leave with you. Again, I'm not familiar with your association. I did sit for several years when I lived in Elk Ridge on a regional economic development commission. We had several things that came up there, and we dealt with several contractors, including the county. When they wanted to do development, we redirected that to a better location, and that was a county development for a facility for them to repair their vehicles, the county vehicles, okay? We pointed out a better location that saved the taxpayers quite a substantial amount of money and reduced traffic on the side roads. So the last comment is, I've been kind of taken back tonight to hear about the way your company apparently handles ethics with the community, where you purposely went out and usurped these URLs, knowing exactly what you were going to do, from what I heard, and that was to try to block community concern and opposition to your development. I suggest that you might want to go back to your president and have him hire a new community relations person, because you don't do that if you want to have the community support your development, which I think you want to when it goes before the commissioner for review. Instead, it's like you throw the gauntlet down and you're doing anything you think you can possibly do to thwart any potential opposition or concern. So my own personal opinion as a 40-year citizen in this county, I've never seen anything like this before when I sat on this regional committee, okay? I have not sat on such a committee here in Ellicott City yet. But I just was totally taken back. Like I said, I don't know your company. I just couldn't believe it when I heard this. Okay, and obviously back to the feasibility study, you believe you're going to meet all these requirements, otherwise you wouldn't be submitting this plan. I mean, that's the way we work in my field of work in engineering, okay, as an electrical engineer. So we do a preliminary engineering development study, and then we follow up with a critical design review, and that's the final, and that's where you're going to head ultimately, because that's your final plan per the process for submittal, right? And at that point, you're going to have all your traffic studies and all that done. So I have one last question on the traffic studies. Are you required to do it, or does the county go off and they do it and then report back to the commissioner? Do you know the answer to that?
We're required to do our own traffic study.
Okay.
As another resident pointed out, that the county does do traffic studies of their own as well.
Okay.
And the idea is that they're looking for us to do one that is current and specific to our development,
Sure.
and not necessarily what they're tracking all the time. So,
Okay.
and then they look at them in combination as they're evaluating our plan.
Okay, is that study done by your company? Do you actually hire an engineering firm to do the
We
study?
hire a professional engineering company that specifies in traffic. I mean, that's why that's why they're named the traffic group.
Right. Okay, so it's an independent third party in essence, so that's good.
That's
what I
correct.
was wondering. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Hungry Mom again. So I guess my question more to a lawyer. Educate me, please, on the third hour of this meeting.
I'm sorry?
Please educate me,
Yes.
because I don't do it for living. And we are R20 currently, correct?
Correct.
You're R20.
You are applying for R20C, which stands conditional.
Conditional use, correct.
You are applying in the process of. So as an applicant, you are required to answer all these questions, yes? Before the hearing examiner and conduct this. So I kind of don't feel bad for you.
Okay.
But my question is, you're going to submit it all to hearing examiner. As a lawyer, what would you recommend us? How can we be heard by hearing examiner?
I believe at the time, the hearing examiner hearing, that testimony is available to be given by us and by anybody who's there that opposes us. Is that correct?
Yeah. I want to be clear that it would not be right for me to give advice,
That's
obviously.
okay.
But I can't explain the process. And the process is that there is a hearing that takes place, and it's what's called a quasi-judicial hearing, which means it's a little bit like a trial, but interested people can come and they can testify. They have to sign up and they can testify, or they can just come and ask questions. For example, of our traffic engineer, if they have questions about the traffic or how it was calculated, they can ask those questions. And so any interested person who wants to come and participate can do that. And by leaving your name and address with us in those boxes back there, that's what the cards are for, we will let you know when we have submitted this conditional use petition. And that will be, an indicator to you that you should start to pay attention for when a hearing is coming. And that's all public information. There are neighbors that will receive notices directly from us, but it's always on the county's website as well.
Okay. So in the conditional use, it says, point D, the ingress and egress drives will provide safe access with adequate sight distance based on actual conditions, not hypothetical, and with adequate acceleration and deceleration lanes where appropriate. For proposed conditional use sites which have driveway access, that is shared with other residential properties, the proposed conditional use will not adversely impact the convenience or safety of shared use of the driveway. So, question, how Norwood and Longview access to Michael's Way, which lacks sidewalks, bikes lanes, lights, and doesn't have room to expand, how you see that going? And I know you're gonna hire a company. Is that company going to share with us that information, or you, before submitting it to hearing examiner, your report, your petition, in full text of it? It's a question that I can read at my spare time because I don't do this for a living.
There's a petition for the conditional use, and there's certain requirements for that petition that we have to submit. Okay, and then there's requirements when we submit the subdivision plan for that as well, and that's where the traffic report is required to be submitted. As we're discussing this here tonight, we know traffic's a big issue, so there's going to be components of that when we go to the hearing examiner as well, but we're not required to make a formal submission to the county. They wouldn't accept it at that time of the traffic report.
But will you share this information with this group now that we share a URL with you?
I mean, we haven't finalized this yet, okay? We don't know what it is that we are constructing.
No, once you finalize it, I understand. Like, July 4th coming up, I'm spending time with you, you're with me. It's cool.
We will make the submission to the county when we're required to make it. If there's some interest in meeting with us and discussing some of these issues,
Post it. We all have internet access.
then
That's what
we
I'm trying to
can
say.
talk about that in the future.
So since route, these whole lanes don't have acceleration, deceleration, etc., and otherwise, I don't know what your plan B, C, and Z is. My question is, I understand you are a hired contractor, you are a hired lawyer, you are a hired engineer. I go to my work, get paid, we all gotta feed our families. I don't know who are the investors here who also gotta make profit out of it. Question, how can we convince you to all of you, like you made the plan, them somewhere, maybe there's two gentlemen, to consider to build 145 units, take away elevator stuff. Like, I'm just trying to see what can we negotiate that we make this 3 hours of torture productive in June, all right? My children are leaving tomorrow to camp, and I'm bonding with you. So I'm trying to bond productively. What can we do to convince you to make it livable with all of us? You're gonna build something anyway. I get it. And you will build and move on to another thing, and you will make another plan, and the investor will buy another lot. I think Mrs. Harbin really hated us all by doing this versus donating stuff to like somewhere, library, Columbia Association, whatever. So we would have not have all these meetings. We lost farm stand across the street on 99. You're not volunteering to put one, you're gonna put fence community. We can go on forever, it doesn't matter. My question is, what would you consider to lower the number of the units without really you kind of being happy with your profits, us kind of being happy, no Hogwarts children, whatever, dogs getting killed, and it's okay. Like, let's figure it out. Do you have a plan B beyond that? I know, I appreciate you lowering the number of the units, but I don't think you did it out of good heart. I think geography came out like that.
So again, our plan started out as 330 units.
I know all that. Like, let's speed it up. It's 9 o'clock.
I mean, these things take time, and we have given up
So do you have another
a third of our density to get down to the 238, and we're significantly below the 5 units per net acre that's allowed within this zone. And
5 units per net acre if you will get conditional use.
for the conditional use, age-restricted adult housing.
Okay, so building
I would say our-
145 single-family homes, we will swallow 90 kids because we're going to swallow them anyway at some point. Board of Ed in a deficit anyway already, $500,000, who cares? So we're okay. Why can't we build at 145 units or 100 or 200 units like stuff? Can you do this math for the next meeting? You can't answer me that question right now, so let's not waste time on it.
The only thing I can answer at this point in time is what I'm contractually obligated to with the seller, the estate at this point, which is why we are here presenting what it is we're presenting.
So you bought it already, it's all sealed, and they
No,
want their $2.2 million.
We are a contract purchaser.
Okay, so it's all bought and sold.
No, that we are the contract purchaser. We are not the owner. The owner is the estate.
Okay, so the state is still kind of being greedy, I guess. So, all right, I guess you can't answer me that. There's no estate, there is no county representative. You're gonna sell this by pieces. So is there any benefit, it's my question to lawyer, for me to attend another 3.5-hour meeting versus go and start looking for some other community to move in or whatever, do some other things with my kids?
I mean, at this point, this is our official
It's rhetorical.
pre-submit. Oh, okay. Sorry, I won't answer.
It's already rhetorical because you can't answer me.
Question.
Okay.
Okay.
My name is Jeff Kendrick, and I live off of St. John's Lane, within sight of the elementary school there. Basically, if you look at the box bounded by 99 in the north, Bethany Lane on the west, Route 40 on the south, and 29 to the east, with one exception. And my house was built in 1960, so the people who built that house, you know, built it essentially in farmland, essentially in open fields. With one exception, every single builder within that box has built single-family detached. Now we have this set of 3 islands, we'll call it a little archipelago up here, that is just going to be this one mixed-use community. Every other developer, every other builder has found that they could maximize their value by building single-family detached homes. Why not Elm Street?
In the homes you're talking about from the 50s and 60s, we have several categories because there's others that have been built in the community as well.
There has not been any other multifamily attached housing in that box.
I
Not
understand.
one thing except for one group of apartments, except for one group of apartments at Route 40 and North Chatham Road. That's it.
The county has an evolving zoning code as it goes through the years. The zoning code in 1961.
I asked why Elm Street can't maximize their value with single-family detached.
That specifically is because we are under contract to do an age-restricted adult housing community. That is the approach that we took with the estate, along with a whole host of other bidders along with us that had different approaches. And I'm sure some of those had, the RED option. I'm sure some of them had the PSC option that they were looking at as well. And so that is why we are where we are and why we're presenting what we're presenting.
But can you understand our concern, how you're going to bring this little set of islands in here that is so vastly different than what every person in this room is bought into? I mean, you can understand, I know it's a kind of rhetorical question, but you can understand that, right?
Sure, we understand the comments that the community's making.
Yeah, so, and I mean, I think we're sort of bookended by this market. If you look at Waverly, Turk Valley to the west, and the stuff that's even built out in this direction, and if you look at North Ridge Road and that area to the east, this market is being pretty well served in those communities. This island doesn't need to exist like this. I mean, it just doesn't need to exist like this. It's not appealing to move into. I mean, I'm not in your line of business, and I don't understand the marketing of it, but I don't see how people would find it appealing to move into this little island with no walkability, no businesses within that mile to go to, no transit, none of that. It just doesn't seem appealing.
But anyway, I know it's all rhetorical, but thank you for taking a minute.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify on the process here. When do you guys feel that you actually have approval to move forward with this conditional use?
I mean,
what is it for you that you get from the county that says, damn it, we're building?
There's a lot of things that were before the building occurs.
But what is it that gets you approval to go forward with this conditional use plan?
From a grading permit construction standpoint, or from starting the plan process with the county?
Taking this to engineering.
Yeah, taking this to engineering, this goes through the hearing examiner hearing,
okay.
And the hearing examiner rules on our petition requesting the conditional use for age-restricted housing.
Okay, yeah, so it's at that hearing, which is here on this chart as after step 4. So today is like step 2, and there's you submit the plan.
Surprised it's not step 1, but.
Yeah. And then there's, in between there, now in the hearing, is there any other formal meetings, or is it only after we request one?
There's a, what you call DAP, Design Advisory Panel,
okay.
which is a group of professional planners that review plans in certain zones for the county.
Okay. I mean, is that open to the public, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay. But then it's really the hearing, which, go back to Angry Mom's case, that's the next 3-hour, 6-hour meeting that you need to go to. When somebody from the county who is actually going to say yes or no to this plan, who actually matters, to hear our concerns.
Actual data will be collected at summertime, when the day is longer, when the school is out. When my high schooler who leaves the house at 7:00 to walk to Mount Hebron with no lights on the street.
I get you. But this planning meeting, I think, is like when you get the actual approval from the county to say it's conditional use or no, it's not conditional use.
That's
usage.
correct.
And the density, that's where the density is decided. Thanks.
Hi, I live in Valley Mead. Can you hear me? I had a couple questions about the conditional use. Are there conditions under which the age restriction could be lifted in the future after it's built?
That has not been done in Howard County, and there's no conditions established for that sort of thing to occur.
Is it legally possible?
It would, in my opinion, it is not legally possible. The county council acting as the zoning board would have to do some pretty dramatic things to make that happen, which I mean that's not likely.
Okay, thank you. And are there other conditional uses in addition to the age restriction aspect that you're applying for, or is that the sole component of your conditional use request?
That's the sole component of our conditional use. When you do look through conditional uses, there's a very, very, very long list that you can apply for, but we're only applying for the age-restricted adult housing.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fred Marino. I live on Hidden Haven Court, which is just to the north. Used to be the old fruit and vegetable stand right behind there is where I live. A couple of comments here. Number one, to me, this whole thing boils down to one thing, and that is the density. It's too dense, and the second thing is the character. It's totally out of character for this neighborhood, both along 99 and, of course, to the south. What you see going down 99, everybody's already talked about, the geographer talked about several times, is not what you guys are designing. Not at all. It's totally out of character. The density at that tiny corner is not in keeping with what we would expect to see in this neighborhood either. So I would ask you, have you looked at other options it seems to me on the north side there where 99 is and 70, that piece of land is totally divorced from what's going on in the south. It's got to be some sort of other solution. Perhaps single families up at that side, and maybe on the south side, maybe there's some more mixed dwellings like you're already showing. But right now, it just seems to me it's totally not really worked out. And I would ask you, have you looked at an option to see if you can come up with 140 to 150, whatever it is, of age restricted, because I understand why you're doing that. We all understand that. But the density and the character is totally wrong for this neighborhood. So have you looked at other options?
I mean, we have not looked at the option that is 145 age restricted. Again, that would be, it would be a violation of the contract that I've signed at this point in time.
You have a performer that you have to meet to make this all work, but you need to go back, as you're hearing from everybody here, this isn't going to work in this neighborhood. People are not happy, and if you all want to be a good neighbor, which I'm hearing you do want to, you need to go back and look at the plan. To me, it doesn't make sense. And as many people have said, even though you're creating one neighborhood, or you're trying to, it's not. It's divorced by 70. It's isolated. You've got to take another look at what you're doing, and I would suggest on the north side there, those have got to be single family, age restricted, and then maybe on the south side, there's more of a combination of mixed units, and particularly along the edges where you've got all single family homes on the south. Make those single families, and then maybe you have some other dwelling units behind it. But in doing that, you're going to reduce the quantity of units. And I understand you've got to perform, you got to make the numbers work, but there's got to be a happy break-even point, which you talked about before. Have you all looked at it and realized that there's a minimum number that you can get to make this work?
And that seems a bit rhetorical. We've looked at this from a lot of different angles before we place an offer on the property. But you know, I have not looked at it for that 145 age restricted.
And can you go back and take a look? And again, the character is wrong along 99. It needs to be changed.
Sure.
And then you know, look at how you're designing on the south side, because it's not. It doesn't make sense to me. Thank you.
My name is Cindy Skillings. I live in the community across 99. A couple of questions. You keep talking about contractually obligated.
Step forward a little.
Contractually obligated. How can you go, if you're contractually obligated, how did you go from 330 to less than 330? How did your contract allow you to step back down? Or were you just after maximum profitability on the 330 units?
I mean, it's a different mix of units, okay? To get the 330, you have to use, you know, condo type product to get to that sort of number. And you know, those are not as valuable as a single family is, as a townhouse or a villa is. So there's ways to play with the density in the mix while you're not really affecting too much of what you're overall doing, you know, with the development of the property and what you are required to, you know, pay for the property under your contract. So we have some flexibility there, but you know, it is limited.
So your contractual obligation, thank you, is based on profitability, not on number of units. So it doesn't matter, right? It's
when I look at
profitability.
something for Elm Street, you know, we're looking at what you know, works on a profit basis and what we are contractually obligated to pay for a property. So you know, you have some valves to work with, and that's the mix of units that I'm talking about. But you know, there's limits to what that mix allows and to what your you know, contract allows you to do as well.
So I'm going to ask another traffic question. One of the things we haven't talked about, you've got this 800 number you're going with, but how many years did you say it would take to build this project?
Well, the build out was 5 years.
Okay.
You have 1 year, you know, so if plan approval, we talked about 2 to 3 years of
you can stop there. I'm interested in the construction years.
Okay.
So one thing we haven't talked about is how many contractors does it take to build a house? And contractors typically work in the 7 to 5 time frame. So we haven't even begun to talk about the number of people trips that's going to add to our roads at those high peak times. So that's an issue. Another issue is who's going to pay for the wear and tear, particularly on assuming that the construction traffic at some point in time is up and down either Bethany Lane or within the community. Who's responsible for that wear and tear? So, right. So those are a couple of issues that we haven't even discussed. And those are concerns, particularly the amount of traffic moving out. And the other question I had a little bit of problem with your answer, still related, is when somebody said, where will the construction traffic move? So you all have built communities like this before, correct? You understand the construction industry and the construction steps, correct? So why could you not answer that question about the anticipated construction traffic? You have the experience, correct?
We have more entrances here than some previous jobs as well. And so when it comes down to the construction plan, the entrances, we're not even sure whether Bethany Lane ultimately gets approved. I mean, we are assuming that we can make it constructed in a safe manner and that it will be approved. So, that would then be the area that I'd be emphasizing for the construction traffic to come in versus the local roads. But that's not a known entity at this point in time. And then my comment about, the development of the community is just, yeah, we'll have to wrap up here quick.
Folks, we're going to have to limit everybody to literally just 2 minutes because we've got some custodians who need to wrap up the building and we need to shut down at the end.
So what's the contractual obligation from the time frame of the meeting?
I'm sorry?
What's the contractual obligation, the time frame of the meeting?
We have to be out of here by 10 o'clock and we need time to break down and we need to clean. So,
okay.
So everybody,
you're going to help clean?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish your answer.
I mean, that's the answer. These are proposed entrances is why I am not saying definitively what I expect the traffic pattern for construction to be.
Okay, thank you.
Hi there, Sue Jones. I live on the north side of Route 99, and just given how much traffic there is in the area, and that includes just not Route 99 and Bethany Lane, but we're also talking about I-70. And my understanding is that not too many years ago, the State Highway Administration began a planning study to widen I-70 from 2 lanes and potentially adding an additional 2 to 4 lanes. And that initial planning study was begun, like I said, some years ago. Due to the economic downturn, they weren't able to proceed further, but the traffic has continued to increase. And my understanding is that the traffic on I-70 is actually considered failing from US 29 up to Marriottsville Road. As a result, Kittleman just a little over a year ago said his highest regional priority was to look at adding lanes to I-70, and in order to clear the path to do that, he's looking at how to correct the interchange at Marriottsville Road and, in fact, rebuild that bridge. So, in other words, we're clearing the way to widen I-70. Now, I understand that would probably be some years down the road. You guys have talked about doing noise abatement, and I take it that would be on the basis of what I-70 is at the time, and I'm going to assume it's going to be the current 4 lanes. But let's just assume that I-70 is going to be widened, and it will be widened by 2 to 4 lanes minimum, because I imagine by the time they get around to it, we won't be able to predict exactly what that will be. Maybe it's going to be 6 additional lanes by that time. So I'd like to know who's going to take care of the noise abatement at that time.
I mean, there's walls up and down 70 the entire direction. I'm not exactly sure who would take care of the walls. The state would.
So the state would take care of it. So in other words, it then goes back on the taxpayers' backs. Am I correct?
If there's existing residence that's already there, and if we've built a wall that is legally compliant with the condition that's in effect at the time, the state comes back later and widens the property. I mean, that's part of the road construction project, just like what's happening on Route 29 North, by the way.
But that's
you see
what
all
I'm
those
getting
walls?
at is that it's going to be on the taxpayers' back at that time. If
Well,
we didn't
it's-
have residents there, then maybe we wouldn't have to have that on
benefits
our backs.
It benefits the taxpayers, though. I mean, there are benefits.
I don't see the traffic and the noise
No,
and the fumes, the lights.
If there's an improvement to 70 is what I'm saying. That's a benefit to the taxpayers. So listen, I don't mean to cut you off, but these people need to get home. So
I think you've answered my question.
Okay.
It's on the taxpayers' backs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for staying. Has your bid been accepted by the Harbin Estate?
We are under contract.
Okay. Is your bid contingent upon receiving approval for conditional use, the conditional use permit?
We answered that question earlier, that it was yes, yes.
Okay. Has any money changed hands?
That's getting into details that I don't feel comfortable as the only counterparty here to be talking about.
Assume a deposit has been made. Thank you.
I'll make this real quick.
Okay, and then we're good. I got it.
My name's Bill Huff, live in Valley Mead. Been in the county. My parents moved here in '71. Lived on Lighter Drive from '71 to '98. Loved the county so much in the area. Decided to move across 70 into Valley Mead and lived there from '98 to present. So this is my community. This does not fit in the community that I've lived in my entire life. Just want to put that out there. Is there a minimum number of entrances way into the south part that you guys need to have in order to make this work?
2.
Okay, so you got 3. Okay, so I'm assuming that if the Bethany Lane entrance does not work through your studies, that you have 3 entranceways now, so that if one doesn't work, you got the 2 in the community that will then work for you.
I mean, we've looked at the Bethany Lane entrance quite in depth. If you look at that plan, you'll see a lot more contour lines right along the roadway in front of there. It's because basically every inch of that roadway was surveyed.
I'm answering the question. So if Bethany Lane does not work due to the study, then the 2 entrances would be Norwick and Longview.
That's correct.
So we'd have all that traffic then coming through Valley Mead to get into that south part.
That is not my goal, but that is a potential
But that's the reason there's 3 entranceways, so that if one doesn't work, you guys still can make this thing work. And
the Norwick and the Longview were intended streets to be extended into the Harbin property by the county. That's why they were constructed as temporary T turnarounds.
Okay, and I'm assuming then that if the Bethany Lane entrance does work, you'll be building the house at the T at Norwick, which is what's on that plan.
I mean, that specific issue, I'd be interested in the Michael Way residents as to what their preference would be in terms of what they'd prefer to see.
Okay, but I think that's your intent. That's the intent of that house being built there at the T at Norwick. If the Bethany Lane works, then you'll build the house. If it doesn't, then we're coming through the neighborhood.
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much for coming. And again, there's sheets up here at the front, and leave your name cards in the boxes if you would like to get the additional updates.
Thanks, sir.